Settling.
Look at us now.
Oh, Jesus.
It's what, 11 a.m.?
Combat.
Oh, there he is.
You fit in seamlessly in this weird MK environment.
Do you want a margarita?
We're gonna do it. On your marks, get set, and go down.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever you hear that sound, it can only mean two things. One, Brian Campbell's probably about to commit a sex crime. And two, it's time for Morning Kombat. Hello, everyone. On this 27th day of March, 2026, it is time for MK. I am merely one half of your hosting duo. My name is Luke Thomas. I join you from the capital of Estados Unidos right here in Washington, D.C., joined by my friend from the city where I went to high school, more or less, kind of, sort of. It's Better Call Y'all, Jed Meshew. Hi, Jed. How are you?
Where'd you go to high school?
Marietta High School. The
You went
suburbs.
to Marietta? Okay, yeah.
Suburbs.
I mean,
Suburbs.
It's
I can't-
Atlanta.
I can't really claim Atlanta, but,
No, Marietta's fine. If you were
Okay.
like out in fucking Conyers, then no. But like Marietta's fine.
Conyers, Georgia. That is not a place I have thought about in such a long time. I will say this, though. Jed, I will say this. My senior year of high school, I went to Kennesaw State half the time, and then I went to high school half the time.
Wow.
I didn't realize this until I was watching the tournament. Kennesaw State made the fucking tournament.
Dude, they got they're like a good D. I think they're D1 AA or whatever, like the not D1. They have like a good football program now too.
Yeah.
They're an enormous university now. They're like 40,000 people. So you haven't thought of Conyers. How about Cumming, Georgia?
Georgia.
Just putting that out there for the next video.
Dicks everywhere, dicks.
Let's bring in the third member of the show who has a very shiny new soundboard. He can't wait to flex more for us. It's my friend and yours. It's Long Island Luke. What's up, Long Island?
What's up, boys? I trimmed the beard. Jed went clean shaven today. I mean,
Wow.
look at us. Look at us getting nice and well done for it. Guys, I think we could just got to start the show straight up with one thing here. Shout out to the boys at MMA On Point. I tweeted this nice little number. I said, guys, reminder, it's Michael Chiesa retirement week. Never talk about his mom. And then MMA On Point, they retweeted the same exact video. They kind of changed a word or two, maybe mixed it up, but the exact same tweet 2 hours after I did, they got 37,000 views. I got 100. I'm not salty or anything, but just thought it needed to be brought up. But that's about it for me, guys. Luke, why don't you tell them about the sale?
First of all, I like MMA On Point, so I'm glad that they stole from you, number one. Number two, all right, let's talk about the sale. MorningKombat.shop is going to be your place to go. Check this out. Right now, 40% off. Now, it doesn't include everything, but it does include all T-shirts. All T-shirts right now are spring cleaning sale, and this will go until March 31st. So you've only got a few days to get this in. MorningKombat.shop, 40% off all T-shirts. And, of course, we still do have the hoodie. Yes, that's right. We still do have the hoodie. That is not a part of the sale, but if you want a T-shirt, now is nearly half off. Now is going to be a great time to do that. Of course, you can also reach the show, morningkombat@gmail.com. We're on socials, blah, 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 blah. A lot of different stuff there. Jed, an exciting weekend of fights. Oh, I do have to remind everyone. I'm going to do this at the end of the show, too. Brian Campbell is doing the Fundora Thurman fight. I think, is that in Vegas? Where is September 11th. Yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait for 9/11. I don't know where that fight is. I think it's in Vegas. I'm not sure. But in any event, BC is there.
It's at the MGM Grand. So
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Have you ever seen a fight in the MGM Grand?
Ooh, no, I don't think I've ever been to a fight in the MGM Grand.
Yeah,
Been
it's
to
a
the
smaller
MGM
venue,
Grand.
obviously, but I love it because it's like literally like if you stay at the MGM, which you might step in someone's vomit from a bachelorette party, but putting that aside, like the joy of just going down to the hotel lobby and then walking across it to go to the venue is, I have to tell you, when the fights are over and you're tired, that's like an amazing feeling. I do love that.
And smaller venues are better. The Hard Rock one is, it's like the blank at the Hard Rock.
Oh, now it's
Casino.
the Virgin Hotel.
Oh, is that? Oh, okay.
I called a fight in there. Yeah.
But like that one, I've been to a couple fights in that one, a couple WECs, and like it was just that place rocked because it was
Yeah.
tiny. So, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
right there. And then you can hit the casino floor after if you're a DJ.
Totally. I like that as well. All right. But we got a lot of fights and fight news and fight talk to get to. So without further ado, let's start things off. Topic number one. Let's go with what I consider to be a pretty good weekend, by the way, in combat sports. Not the highest of the high end. No one's saying that it is or that it should have been, but it is pretty good. You got a couple of fight nights. We're going to start with UFC Seattle, the bigger of the two. And in particular, the main event, Jed. I call this the crown jewel of the weekend. Let me just start off with something of a more interesting question, or what I hope is more interesting. For all of the belly aching about matchmaking recently, and I'm not saying that belly aching about UFC matchmaking is necessarily unfair. That's not the point that I'm making, but I am observing that there's been a lot. Should we give them more credit for this fight? Not that this fight I'm saying is perfect, but number one, you're right over there. You having an aneurysm?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
My sign fell.
Ah,
which
okay.
says, in honor of BC.
All right. Very
Real
good.
talk. Like men do.
You like the sauce, yeah.
All right. In fairness to them, there's great anticipation for it. I don't know how you're feeling. I'm kind of excited about it. I know it's strange with the rankings, but do you feel like this is one, now that we're really 24 hours out from it, that the UFC got right?
I think it's one of the better fights the UFC has booked this year, right? Like, this fight makes sense, Luke. You know, like Izzy's on a 3-fight losing streak right now. This is basically his career or bust. You know, like maybe not, maybe he keeps fighting, you know, but like 4 in a row at that point, we know what's what. And Joe Pyfer is a dude who they pushed. He fell short against a very winnable fight. Now they've tempered their push on him, right? Like they're not all the way behind him, but he's won a couple and they're like, all right, here, if you beat Izzy, suddenly you are legitimately right in the mix at the middleweight, you know, title conversation, which is obviously a thing that I think that they would be okay with. And if you don't, Izzy's back and, you know, it's fine. Like they're not invested in Joe Pyfer in a way that they previously were. So from like a pure matchmaking standpoint, this is a classic combat sports matchup, which I really like because also when it was first announced, it felt weird, to your point. You know, like the rankings are just very odd. And the more I've thought about it, I'm like, I'm going to learn something pretty pivotal, I think, in this fight. And I like fights like that because I don't feel like we've learned a lot with main events this year. It's been like, okay, we're trying to do something. You know, we're trying to get Paddy Pimblett over. We're giving Volk a walkover win. You know, like this fight has real stakes, is theoretically competitive, and will teach us something. So I think this is pretty solid matchmaking.
I will say this. Some of the best fights that the UFC has booked this year have been not at the championship level, but just one step down from that. Like this is kind of close to that. Certainly Movsar and Lerone is a great example of that. We're going to talk about it later, Jed, but they booked Kyoji Horiguchi and Manel Kopp. And I'm like, within some of these divisions at the sub-championship, but still, you know, high contendership level, these are some of the better parts of what's going right for UFC at the present moment. And I do think it's important to point that out because I really am kind of excited about this main event. There are a couple of ways it could go bust, but there's many more ways I think where it could be quite exciting. Pardon me. So let's talk about the stakes here. You had kind of hinted at it. The question would be something like this. Does Izzy retire if he were to lose via stoppage? Because the interesting part about it is on the win side, even if he wins, it's not exactly clear what the path is next, but it does seem clear that a loss here, particularly via stoppage, it could amount to something pretty significant. Where are you on this question?
I don't know if he does. He definitely should, right? Like, and realistically, a loss means he's got knocked out. Like, do you really think Joe Pyfer is going to like win 48-47s? That seems deeply unlikely to me. He's going to throw a right hand and is going to die if he wins. And if that happens, like, walk away. You know, there is an argument that he should have already walked away, right? Like, it's very clear to me that the like Disney movie where the film ends, part of the Israel Adesanya story, is knocking out Poatan, right? Like, that is the last high. he can maybe get some other wins, and that feels like what he's doing. You know, he says he really likes it. He's recommitted to just having fun and doing side quests, and that's great. But Imavov put him down. If he gets put down again, this is a dude with like 120 fights or whatever. I think he had, you know, it's hard to be certain with kickboxing and Muay Thai, but he had like 80 of those fights professionally. He's had 30 some odd or 30 fights in MMA. He's had a few boxing. Like, that is just a lot of mileage. And, you know, he's getting up there in age. He's not super old, but he is getting older. And if now he's getting knocked out regularly, walk away. You made plenty of money. You can go DJ. You can do other things. You can work on your YouTube channel, etc. So I hope he leaves. But look, you've been doing this longer than I have. How often do fighters leave when they should leave? Never. They never do. So I don't know.
Yeah, I suspect that a loss via stoppage would only really force him out if it was toe curling in terms of the severity of the knockout, like something approximating what happened to Bryce Mitchell against Josh Emmett. But that's, I mean, Joe Pyfer's got big power, but it's unlikely that he could score on Izzy quite like that. So I think, to your point, even if he loses via stoppage for all the other reasons too, even if he wanted just like a not a homecoming fight per se, but a bow out fight somewhere on a Aussie card, you know, he might wait for something like that before even calling it a day too, right? So I just think
that'd be fine, man.
Say again?
That'd be fine. Like if he specifically gets knocked out and is like, I want one more. Luke, I don't know if you saw this. There was a thing that I saw this week that like kind of concerned me about this. If Izzy loses, where Eugene Behrman, you know, his longtime coach, was like, I wanted Izzy to retire until I saw the Nasruddin Imavov fight. And I'm like, buddy, you and I took very different things away from that Imavov fight. That's the one where I'd be like, yeah, maybe we should start ushering this in. And so now I don't know that, like, again, I think he's got a really good chance to win Saturday. But if he gets blasted, are the people in his corner even going to be like, hey, man, maybe it's time. Let's push you out of this? Or are they, you know, if he has a good opening round, are we going to fall prey to the thing that, you know, we did with Tony Ferguson and Anderson Silva? Like, oh, there are moments like we can see that he's still got it. It just hasn't happened for him. That's the thing that concerns me with Izzy.
We've got this quote from Izzy on what he wants doubters to feel. Quote for the folks on the audio platforms. When I'm done this weekend, I want people to be like, oh, wow, fuck. How did I ever doubt him? How did I ever think he was done? What the fuck was I thinking? That's the story that I want to write. Is this I mean, every person has their own tics. They have their own raison d'etre. They have their own ways to power their motivation. What do you make of Izzy's here?
A lot of people, that is the thing, to your point, you know, and a lot of fighters really love to prove people wrong and shut up the haters. That has never been like a highly motivating thing for me. And I always just feel that that's not like the best motivation, especially when it's like, how much do you really care about the haters at this stage of your career? Is you've been around them so much. So like, do you care to prove people wrong when you've been doing it forever or whatever? I like it better when he's like, my motivation is I'm just trying to have fun. You know, I haven't done some things. I'd like to do some of these things, you know, before my career's out. To me, that rings better, but I'm not him. So it doesn't really matter what like would be better for me. Does this work? Like, that is really the proof will be in the pudding. If this is what gets him back to getting a win, then it's good.
I want to talk about X's and O's at the end because I want to sort of capture what's happening here. By the way, did you also see the thing that Izzy has captured the most amount of attention on this week was just saying he would have no interest in even not merely fighting on the White House card, but not even attending. That certainly generated some interesting publicity. But turning the attention, if I may, to Joe Pyfer, put up this. Well, you know what? How do we assess Joe Pyfer here? Because obviously it's all eyes on Izzy to the extent where it's like, okay, what has he got left? What can be done here? How fun can this last chapter be? Whereas Joe, it's a question of like, hey, man, how far is this actually going to go? Izzy was a champ who defended multiple times. We know how far it went. Joe's at a very, very different part of this journey. how do you assess his momentum, improvement, stock, value to the company? Because you kind of couched it like, oh, well, he lost and then they lost faith in him. I think I think he's in this fight because they, want to give Americans a boost, but I also believe they want to get him back on the horse in terms of like really making a run at the title.
I think they want to boost him, but they are not. We had the setback, so they're no longer like, we have to do whatever it takes. They're not Sean O'Malleying this dude, where it's like he will only get the best. Like, this is a very losable fight for him. It's a winnable one, but they are okay if he loses this fight. This is not purely a build behind Pyfer. And truthfully, I don't know what to make of Joe Pyfer. I was not massively impressed with him coming off Contender Series in general. He felt like a dude who got way more hype than what he had showed merited. And a lot of it was just because the B Joe Pyfer speech, right? Like you get that sort of boost from Dana White. There's going to be some momentum behind it. And then it's really hard for me, like, credit to Jack Hermanson, very solid fighter. If you're going to be a champion, you should beat Jack Hermanson. Like, I don't really care what stage of your career you're at. And like, that was just a very disappointing loss. They have built him back up quite well. The biggest thing for me coming off the Hermanson loss was I didn't feel like Pyfer had learned a lesson, because the stuff he was saying was not, oh, I didn't know how to beat a jab. And that, like, it was all like, actually, there were 6 reasons why I lost, and none of them are my fault. Derpader. I do feel like he has shown some improvement in his last couple of fights. The Abus fight, the Gastelum fight was like the one that really jumped out at me. I was like, okay, he showed a lot more patience. He wasn't just, I'm going to come and try and bomb this dude out as quick as I can, and if that doesn't work, I have no plans. So he's adding tools, and he's still young enough to maybe add enough tools to make like a real title run. But this is, I think, the toughest test of his career. And so this is like, that's why I said at the top, I'm going to learn some stuff, because if Joe Pyfer beats Izzy, I will have a lot, even this version of Izzy, I will have a lot more confidence that, oh, this guy might actually be like a legitimate top 10 middleweight for some time, which would be interesting, right? At the minimum, it would be interesting to have, like, we don't have that many good Americans anymore, Luke. So everyone we can get would be helpful.
That's kind of where I'm at. They just kind of want to see what they've got with this guy. 29 years of age. It's not a shit or get off the pot kind of moment, but it's just a great leveling up opportunity if he can seize it. He had some interesting things to say this week, and by interesting, I mean kind of weird. First one is this one about Anderson Silva and Izzy. He says, I just think if you look at Anderson Silva, who was also one of the best, I think the modern era of the MMA fighter is now, and from year to date, I think Israel has beaten the more complete MMA fighters. This is one of these things where I think our terminology trips us up, because, dude, like, anybody who watches sports there's some exception to this, but in general, if you just watch sports, it's very obvious that modern players are the best versions of players that have ever existed. I don't think there's a team from 1979 in the NBA you could put together that could beat, a top 5 team currently in the NBA. It doesn't even make sense. Obviously, American heavyweight boxing has declined to a degree, certainly, but even then, in general, sports get better as time goes on. I just kind of fundamentally believe that, with some exception. But in this particular case, Anderson is clearly the most accomplished middleweight. Whether he could beat a modern Hamzat is maybe probably not is the answer, but like the level of achievement he had is so significant that you have to kind of sort of say who had the best middleweight campaign with the time that they had. And, this is also in the modern era. It's not necessarily, to me, Jed, a question of like, head to head in their prime, who wins. It's a separate conversation to me.
Yeah. This is just a bad quote from Joe Pyfer I guess it's not a bad quote, because he's trying to put over a dude that if he beats, is like, oh, I beat the GOAT, which is way better when fighters are like, that dude sucks and I'm going to go fight him. As I was like, man, you better blow the doors off him, because if that dude sucks and then you go hammer and tongs, you suck. Like, that's so promotionally, I guess it works, but like, I don't even think in the way Joe Pyfer is trying to make this argument, this is a correct statement. It's obviously cartoonishly incorrect as far in terms of like all-time greatness and level of accomplishment, but everybody in the sport gets that shit wrong constantly, right? Like they tried to tell me Kamaru Usman was the GOAT welterweight, which is the stupidest shit in the world. I'm not even sure he's the number 2, but greatest welterweight of all time. You know, like they started trying to do this with Izzy in the peak of his run. We just want to do this, but like even in the way Pyfer says it, I don't think is right. Like look at who Anderson Silva beat. Like I'm sorry, man, beating Paulo Costa and Marvin Vettori, like those aren't any definition of better than Dan Henderson. Like if you put Prime Hendo in the UFC middleweight division right now, he would be fine. I don't know if he'd be champion. He'd be just as good as Paulo Costa, you know, if not substantially better. So
also like Rich Franklin in his prime versus Paulo Costa. I'm picking Rich Franklin 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, like so even in the way, like there is an absolute argument for that with some people. Like I think Volk has beaten better people than Jose Aldo did, right? I still believe Jose Aldo is the GOAT featherweight, but like it's easy for me to be like, oh yeah, the sport improved so much here. But in middleweight, it's like, nah, man, you put Prime Anderson in middleweight, he might win the belt like right now without issue. So
yeah, the wrestling would be a challenge, but in general, I certainly agree. All right, he had another thing to say where he said he made a 360, which means he didn't make a change at all, but I think he means he made a big change. Let's hear this.
Well, to be just completely honest, I feel I've had a complete resurgence, like life change 360 as far as my faith. And I felt like I had an outer body experience with something that happened in my life where I was able to see who I was, and I was pretty disappointed. Like I always felt guilty about certain things. And a girl I've been with, her name's Ashlyn. She's been a girlfriend of mine for 6+ years now, and you know, just envisioning marriage and a family and God at the center of everything is going to be something that I feel like is my true legacy. Didn't like who I was when I was able to see who I was, and thanks to the, you know, God putting my girlfriend in my life the way that he did, because she's been the only person in an intimate level that has ever come into my life and loved me through anything and everything. I'm in a rebuilding phase of my life. I'm a baby Christian, but I feel like a born-again believer, and I feel like it's very important for me to talk about it. So I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. For the ones that don't believe, give yourself a chance, because it's true freedom.
I'll say this. I mean, he's certainly on the lifestyle side seems to be making maybe healthier decisions, and he seems pretty tranquil, relatively speaking, and he's not saying insanely racist shit about Mexicans. So like already we're at a pretty big upgrade. I also, Jed, I mentioned this on my live chat yesterday, which is I have definitely seen cases where guys, you know, had this kind of like renewed emphasis on religion in their lives, and then simultaneously they would lose their edge. And I don't mean that like going to religion made them lose it, because I've definitely seen some very religious people who could fight their fucking ass off. It's not that, but it's that they're undergoing something personally and it expresses itself in a bunch of different ways. One is this sort of turn religiously, and then the other one is that they can't, something has happened to them internally that they can't muster the same kind of fire. I'm not saying I am saying that for Joe Pyfer, but maybe something to keep an eye on depending on how this goes on Saturday.
Dude, didn't Roy McDonald like straight up say, I found Jesus and couldn't hurt people anymore?
Yes.
Like that doesn't appear to be how Pyfer has interpreted his relationship with Jesus. And look, if this makes him a better person, good for him. You know, why would I ever have issues with that happening? If this makes him just more focused on his career, maybe this works for him. Like, I guess we will find out. I hope the best for him in this regard, because the less people say insanely racist things about random countries, the better the world probably is. So awesome. I just don't, you know, you want to take people at face value and you want to take people at their word. And so Joe Pyfer hasn't really given us a reason not to. And so I'm happy to take him at his word. But, you know, John Jones has deep and abiding relationship with his faith. And I wouldn't say that has worked out as great as you might hope it would.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, but I think if you take the broader picture of like, he does seem more grounded, right? Like in his interviews, he has just been like a much chiller dude as far as like not trying to be about all that, not like foolishness. And I don't know how that manifests in the cage. Let's find out, but I hope that this is what's best for him, you know?
All right, let's talk about X's and O's here. Let me tell you where I'm at on Pyfer, because I really think that he's more of the X factor here than Izzy. Izzy has much more known quantities. Those are degraded. There is a question of how much fight to fight. They're going to keep being degraded. I guess we shall see. But the Pyfer question to me is a little bit more interesting, and I'll tell you why. It's that, you know, he is good enough and athletic enough to beat a certain level of MMA fighter 10 times out of 10, and to do it very quickly. But I'm just not super convinced by his upside yet. Now, that's not me declaring that there isn't one that he can now reach beyond what he has shown us, just that he hasn't done it yet. And, you know, for example, in the Gastelum fight where he starts out like looking amazing, and Gastelum, I understand that Gastelum has legendary durability. That is a huge component of this. But he also was able to just kind of slowly and methodically work his way back into the fight. I don't think Izzy is going to have the physical durability of Gastelum, so some of this may not even be relevant in that kind of a way. But the reality it shows is that, I mean, he did well against Hermanson, or at least better against Hermanson early, and then that fight got, you know, away from him as well. Like, these guys who have technical maturity are able to either beat him or, to bare minimum, win as down the stretch as the fight goes longer. So obviously the question here is, one, Izzy's durability. That's a big part of it. But two, if that isn't the defining factor, that's where this fight to me becomes significantly more interesting. I don't know if I have not seen anything from Pyfer other than crowding, big power, athletic, you know, explosivity into big exchanges. You know, he's got some setups, to be clear, but if that becomes diminished in the first 2 rounds, what I want to see here is, Jed, some kind of other gear he can go to in the 3rd round to really enable him to not be able to fade against someone who does have, in all likelihood, much greater technical mastery than him.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is six of one, half dozen of the other. But to me, the X factor is Izzy's durability, because I have no reason to believe Pyfer has done any of those things, right? Like, this is a very straightforward matchup, in my opinion. Could be wrong. Been wrong a lot. Pyfer doesn't have an off-speed pitch. He doesn't have a plan B. He doesn't have a deep bag of tricks, which is why, like, as a fight goes on, if you can survive the initial onslaught and you have, like, tools and tricks and a depth to your game, you can start to make hay against him. What Jack Hermanson basically did with his jab. Izzy has a huge bag of tricks. So obviously, if we get into the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round, I strongly anticipate Izzy to win those. It is purely a question of his durability. Unless, has Pyfer started to add something, anything, like any sort of a changeup? Because right now he's got a big right hand and he can kind of tackle you sometimes. Like, if he can add any sort of other work on the feet, like, that would help him. But he just hasn't shown us that in, like, it's not like a short career. He's fought a bunch of times. So that's why I am interested in this fight, because if he does, like, if he comes out and wins this fight, not by just bombing on Izzy early, all right, now he's a real player. He's given me something to say, okay, he is marrying his athletic gifts with, like, a technical skill and acumen. And now that can be a real problem for a lot of dudes. If not, I think Izzy's going to get his first win since Poatan.
So again, all of these measurements are crude, but just a sort of an exercise you can go over. It's like, which of the guys that Izzy has lost to would you favor Pyfer to beat? Poatan, no. Strickland, no. Duplessis, no. And then Imavov, no. I would not favor Joe Pyfer to beat any of those guys. And so that doesn't make Izzy's durability not a question. It is a question, but it sort of kind of shows you, honestly, if Izzy loses this one, even by split decision or something, this is clearly the worst guy he'll have lost to in MMA. Like, yes, by far. Like, this will be by far his worst loss. And so he's never lost to someone, I think, ranked like 14th or whatever Pyfer's at the present moment. Just a crazy kind of situation that he finds himself in. But as we indicated, for Pyfer, a big opportunity here, if ever there was one.
I was trying to look back at Izzy's kickboxing career and be like, would this just be the straight up worst dude he's ever lost to? I can't quite say that confidently, but in MMA, 100%.
So no question about it. Last thing, our friends at DraftKings have the odds. I think this is probably right. They have Izzy as a minus 148, Joe Pyfer as a plus 124. You want to hazard a guess on how you think this one goes?
I think Izzy is going to win probably a decision because he doesn't put the pedal down. Once he gets comfortable in, if you're in second gear and he can get to third gear, he's very happy to just stay there and ride it out. Pyfer is the most dangerous in the first 7 minutes. After that, I strongly anticipate if he hasn't gotten it done, and he can, because the thing about Adesanya is his style, some of it is built on fast twitch, quick reflexes. And as those diminish, you get more hittable, and then boom goes the dynamite. But I don't think it'll happen. I think Izzy's got enough tricks, good enough at maintaining a range, which Pyfer has not really showed a great ability to navigate. And so Izzy just sort of cruises to perhaps slightly lackluster, but a good win for him to finally get back on track.
All right, let's go to topic number 2, and we'll talk about the rest of this UFC Seattle card. Let's go to the main event. Now, Jed, we have a contest here. I'm very much looking forward to it, between Alexa Grasso and Macy Barber. This is a women's flyweight bout. Of course, this is the rest of the card very quickly. Michael Chiesa, we'll talk about him taking on Nico Price. Juliana Rosa is on this card. My favorite one, the Abdul Malik Belgarwi. I'm not sure I pronounce his last name properly. Love that one. And of course, they're going to be two guys shot out of a cannon in McKinney and Nelson. We'll come back to those in just a minute. But this co-main event, Alexa Grasso, Macy Barber, it is a rematch between them. But my question actually starts with Macy Barber, which is that, she had a big plan to be the youngest champion, beating John Jones. She couldn't do it. She's now 27, still quite young. And I think this might be, Jed, the final real contendership moment. This might be one of those things where we finally get, because she's been building and building and building more recently, obviously having a bit of a tough stretch some years ago. But it's been this sort of, and then I know there were some health complications too, but it's kind of been the steady accumulation of better and better wins. I feel like A, if she can get revenge, that kind of sends an important message. But two, to me, a good win here would basically declare her as your number one contender potentially in the division. I know there might be some debate about that, but it just feels like this is too small of a card maybe to be a breakout moment as a star, but definitely the thing that finally turns her into the top contender in this division.
Yeah, I mean, this is what this fight is set up to be, is, shades of, frankly, the main event as well here, where it's like, all right, you got a former champion, bit of a losing streak. They've come against good names, but how much does she have left? Here's the young person we got behind, had some setbacks, put together a win streak, still very young. Can we go here? I think that is good matchmaking again. Right. I don't think this necessarily precludes Macy Barber if she loses to Alexa Grasso from contending. She's still so young and this weight class is relatively poor that she could still get back there. But this is hey, we've teed you up to get revenge on one of your only career losses, to avenge the last loss you had, right? This big winning streak started the fight after she lost to Grasso in weird circumstances, right? And hey, I mean, probably is the number one contender. The Natalia Silva thing, we assume she's getting the next crack at Val. Right. And then Aaron Blanchfield sort of exists around these. They were obviously supposed to fight each other and didn't. So I don't know how that will all shake out, but 8-fight winning streak, victory over a former champion. What else do you have to do to get a title shot? So this is set up for Macy Barber to finally, several years off her own schedule, get to an actual title fight.
Our own Brian Campbell, or formerly our Brian Campbell anyway, there he is, spoke to Macy, and it was a bit of a weird conversation. Let's watch this.
If you get a victory over the former champion here, is there anything else stopping you on an 8-fight win streak, if that happens, from getting your crack at the title?
I think the only thing that's stopping me is if Dana decides that he just doesn't want to see me have a belt.
Fair to say right there.
That's the only thing, is if they're like, nah, we just don't want her to have it. There's no one else or nothing else in my way.
I think he was distracted by closing the ads on the porn site he was watching at the time. I'm not sure.
Like the sauce, yeah.
But
pants around his ankles.
What do you make of the notion there that, Dana might be the thing standing in her way? I mean, she was sort of half kidding, I think. But again, your reaction to this clip.
I think it was mostly tongue in cheek with like maybe I've had some issues with the promotion. She pulled out of a fight like immediately before walkouts, like that's not a thing that endears you to the brass. But like realistically, if you ask Dana White off the record or on, I don't think he genuinely like cares if Maycee Barber, probably broadly speaking, the UFC wouldn't mind having a young, outspoken champion. Like, because think about it. Valentina Shevchenko, in my opinion, the greatest female fighter of all time. Great champion to have, like, holistically, right? Like, wow, one of the greatest fighters ever holds the belt. That's awesome. Not like great on the mic, doesn't have the most fun fights you've ever seen. So that's pretty tough promotionally. They finally unseat her, and it's Alexa Grasso, who at least has Mexico behind her, but isn't like the most outspoken, doesn't have the best fights. Maycee Barber would present probably sort of the ideal of a promotional fighter to get behind. So I don't think that would be a problem for her. I think the problem might just be she's sort of behind other people in line right now. Also, the problem would be, I don't think she beats Valentina Shevchenko. That would be the biggest problem for her holding a belt, not Dana White.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a separate kind of question. Getting a crack at the belt, I think, is sort of more what she's getting after here. But I understand the point. Also, we'll come back to this here in just a minute. So if you watch their first fight, well, you know what? Actually, before we even do that, let's talk about Alexa Grasso here. Dude, I have lost all kinds of confidence in her. I mean, I don't think the win against Shevchenko the first time was fluky. Fluky implies like extremely low percentage. I don't think it's that. I thought it was low percentage that kind of opportunity would present itself, but she took advantage of it when it did. That's legit. Couldn't really repeat it in the second fight, although the scoring on that one we know was weird. But then, dude, her wrestling kind of degraded. It's never been great, but it didn't get better between the first and second Shevchenko fights, and it appeared to get even worse in the third one. To say nothing of her more recent fight against Natalia Silva, where she just got outstruck basically the entire time too. What has gone wrong with Alexa Grasso? Did her game stop developing? Did the rest of the pack catch up? Where are we with her?
I think her game just is what it always was. She stagnated, and I do not want to take anything away from the title win. I think her winning the title is like one of the greatest accomplishments in recent memory, because like it happened for a very specific, she is not as good a fighter as Valentina Shevchenko. Like she just simply isn't. We've seen them fight a bunch. We know this fairly definitively at this point. She was losing the first fight until Val spun and she attacked. She attacked something they specifically drilled because like this is a thing that will happen and we can try to take advantage of it. And that's why like being a long reigning champion is so hard, because fighters get to prepare very like specific minutia for you to attack you in unique ways. And that just like happened. But if you look at the full arc of her career, at what point were you like, man, this woman really has the goods. She's going to be one of the best fighters in this division forever. No, she's always been like a very solid fighter, but she doesn't have this enormous dynamic offense, right? Like she's not going to finish you out of nowhere, which always makes things a little harder. And she's never been a great wrestler. She's had some moments, but like that's come to bite her in the ass a couple of times. So I don't think anyone caught up necessarily. I just think this is who she always was. And she was on a pretty hot run to get to the belt, and credit to her.
Yeah. I think for me, she had early footwork and combination boxing. Also, if you look at the first fight between these two, Barber was like way, way outside. And so her feints weren't really working because there's really no threat based on the distance. And then when she did try to close the distance, you could just time her because there was no real setup from it that was, genuinely threatening behind it. You have to kind of play with that, obviously. And so she would get tagged coming in. She did land some big overhands, did a lot of clinching along the fence, but also got reversed on the ground a couple of times, or at least one time, certainly. And then, nearly got submitted for it. So, like, Grasso was way ahead of it. I just feel like Barber has made up a lot of ground since then. In fact, the odds makers, they don't quite agree. Oh, yes, they do. I'm sorry. They have Grasso at plus 154, the DraftKings odds makers, And then Macy Barber, they have at minus 185. I think slight lean Barber is the right call here. To me, Jed, who's gotten better since their last fight? It's not just that Barber has made up a lot of ground, although that's part of it. I think she's made up enough ground, and Grasso has, I think, either stagnated or even declined, such that they're now in different places. We shall see tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree with the odds. I think because Barber obviously has improved more, right? Like just very clear. There's also like just the point of one, it was 5 years ago. Barber was 22. So yes, you're going to get better when you're that age. That was also Barber's coming off her first loss and a knee injury. So probably not her best performance in general. So, you can extrapolate a little out of there. I will say the thing that I'm the most concerned about with Grasso, less than like, I think she has stagnated in general, is she really kind of just gave up against Shevchenko. And there was like a hair of that against Natalia Silva as well. And look, that's the number 1 and 2 fighters in this weight class. But like, where is she mentally? She climbed to the top of the mountain. And sometimes when you get there, that's it. You're there and you're not the type of person who wants to defend or, mentally can stay locked in and defend forever and ever. Look at Rose Namajunas, like on her best nights, an elite fighter also often doesn't have her best nights or whatever. So like, where is Grasso mentally? How focused is she on this fight? Because if she's not like at her apex, I think Macy Barber is going to win this cleanly. If she is, the Grasso we saw in Shevchenko's 1 and 2, this fight gets very, very competitive. I don't know that we have any reason to believe that's the Grasso we're going to get on Saturday.
Well, here's the Macy we got in an important part of MK history. Let's roll that footage.
Luke, we have a couple more minutes before our guest joins. I mean, if I urinated right now, would you be very mad at me?
Urinate on your pants?
No, just like, run to the no shit bathroom.
Can I tell you that I didn't use this restroom. I used the one in the back.
Which 50% of the time, no one's taking a dump in
Okay,
there.
so two things were happening to me. In the far stall, I didn't see who it was. He was making noises with his anus. Sounded like the T-Rex roaring in Jurassic Park. The deer goes like this. There was a gentleman who stood next to me who unzipped his pants and did this number.
What number is this?
No, we're
the number 6 and 9 put together. What number you got for me?
He unzips his pants and goes, and then audibly farts. So we got the Velociraptor in the corner, and then we've got old man at the gym audibly farting next to me at the urinal.
You should have just triple decked it Joseph A. Banks style and just been like, you want a war? I'll give you a war.
Kingpin, where he just took a dump in the urinal.
Okay, that's disgusting. Hey, on that note, why don't we welcome our fantastic guest this week on the program, Macy. Welcome to Morning Kombat. Great to see you. We are itching to see you back in action. How's everything going?
I know, I can't wait. Well, first of all, you guys introed me on like the most random conversation that I got to walk into. I was like, what are they talking about?
What kind of question is that?
Oh,
it's one of the finer moments in this show's history.
That's how every guest on the show should be introed, by a preamble of bodily functions that we can inventory.
What if I take a shit in a urinal? And now Macy Barber. Jesus, dude. How is this show still a thing?
I'm Dub T and I really want to vape.
It's the fact that I've not been fired is genuinely it's like, I don't know what it would be. I don't know. Like Mick Parkin. No, not even. No, we got to go worse. Like
Nico Price.
Yeah, like Nico Price just going on a 20-win heater to become the champion and defend it multiple times. Like that's how rare it. Like that's how statistically unbelievable it is that I've not been let go. Really, truly.
Shout out to Macy for taking that in stride.
Yeah, that was fucking hilarious. God, that was great. All right, let's talk about some of the other fights on this card. Hey, listen, he's a minus 800. Michael Chiesa is to Nico Price's plus 550. Of course, is filling in on short notice. He's not even the original opponent. He also got knocked out 50 days ago. I don't know what you want to say about this fight. Chiesa's from Seattle. It's a great time to call it off. He's got a budding career, and he's very good at it as a commentator. Do you have any memories about his career? What can you say about this fight?
I love this fight. I think sometimes the UFC gets it right. And Nico Price should be the default retirement opponent. It worked so well with Robbie Lawler. Michael Chiesa does not have the same level of storied career as Robbie Lawler, obviously. But like, that can be Nico Price's only job, is like, you get to fight guys leaving because you're going to send them out on a high note. Anthony Smith should have fought Nico Price. I don't care about the weight classes. That's what should have happened, because it's perfect. And I think, like, what was the original matchup? Do you have that in front of you? I can't ever remember what it was supposed to be.
I can tell you the original matchup. Yes, I have it here in my notes. It was Carlston Harris, I think he's Guyanese, maybe.
Okay.
Mozambique,
yeah, like that's,
excuse me, maybe.
That would be like a fine fight in general, but it's not like a walkover win for Chiesa. And let Chiesa get one, like, he's had a very good career. He's not going to be a Hall of Famer, but he's Iman Shumpert, right? Like, he had a solid career, did some good things, can be proud of his athletic achievements, and transitioned that into a job on the desk. And he's good at that job, right? So, like, credit to him. Let's send him out on a victory. Nico Price's perfect matchmaking to do that. And we're sending him at home. Like, this is A+ work from the UFC.
In terms of MMA prospects and they're fighting one another, who are you hired on? Mansour Abdul Malik or Yusri Belgarwi? For me, I got to tell you, cards on the table. Abdul Malik, one of the more interesting American prospects that we have, I think.
I am a huge Mansour Abdul Malik guy. Graded him very highly coming off Contender Series. He's gotten a little older, right? Like, I think he's 28 now. So time's not over, but we're getting up against it where you're going to need to start making the big jumps. I love this match because I didn't think as much of Bulgari, but he's more accomplished, right? He has a win over Poatan in kickboxing. Glory guys transitioning over have largely done quite well in the UFC. I feel like the answer to that question, Luke, is whoever wins this is the guy I'm going to be higher on. Like, right now, I would take Mansour Abdul Malik, but if he loses, I don't really know what his ceiling is anymore. Like, the time is starting to catch up to him. He would need to have a quick turnaround to get back on top. So whoever wins this, that's the guy to get behind in this weight class for like the foreseeable future.
I'm not even sure what you're supposed to say about Terrence McKinney and Kyle Nelson. These two are shot. Well, one of them is definitely shot out of a can. The other one can, I think, slow the fight down if he has to, that being Kyle Nelson. But it probably won't go past the first round because Terrence McKinney just doesn't go past the first round. Any other context that is noteworthy here?
24 of his 25 career fights have not hit the over 1.5. So Terrence McKinney I think he's great because he knows what he is, and he will probably be employed for as long as he wants because the way he fights. He's never going to win a championship, and that's okay. It's always a fun time when he's on a fight card. Let's watch this 4 minutes of chaos.
All right, there's a bunch of other fights on this card that I actually really like. Or not, sorry, in the co-main, but the Julian Erosa versus Larian Douglas. If you like that fight, great. I don't really care about it one way or the other. However, Ignacio Bahamondes taking on Tawfiq Musayev. Musayev had a different fight scheduled. That one fell out, so they pumped in Bahamondes, who I am still pretty high on, 28 years old. However, coming off that loss to Rafael Fiziev, and it was kind of one-sided on top of it. Of course, he did have the nice win streak before that against Giagos Torres and then Jalen Turner, but that was a Jalen Turner who's kind of at the end of his run there. Tawfiq Musayev, to me, is not, like, obviously an unbeatable fighter. He's got 6 losses, and he is coming off a loss to Oralbai, but so fucking what? Like, Oralbai is real good. And then he has a loss to Alexander Chablis back in Bellator in 2023. But these are all really good dudes, and frankly, both of them, in my view, better than Bahamondes. Do you share this analysis?
I might nitpick about like better or whatever because I'm very high on, or I was very high on Bahamondes. I've had to reset myself because the Fiziev loss was daunting. But I think this fight is awesome. This is terrific matchmaking. It's probably should be on the main card. It's like arguably the best pure fight of any on this card. And I am interested to see how Bahamondes rebounds, right? Because he is still young enough to make like a real run in this weight class. He's super dynamic and super fun. And you don't want him to end up being like Joel Alvarez, who just kind of never got there, right? Like was awesome, but didn't get there. We want Nacho to be good. And I think this is a good matchup for him to say, hey, Fizzy is one of the 10 best dudes in the world. It's okay that I lost to him. I'm going to get better and I'll catch up that. And if not, like for Tafik, hey man, like you're win this and we can get you into a real Bahamondes isn't ranked right now, is he?
No, not inside. Not top 15.
Yeah, I think he was for the physique fight.
Topology has him at 18, so he's hovering in that 16 to 20 range.
Exactly, he's hovering right there. So if Tafik gets this one, his next opponent is probably somebody with a number next to their name and can try and climb the rankings here. It's a great fight, love it.
Chase Hooper and Lance Gibson Jr., two guys who are looking for redemption. Do you have a feeling about who this might favor? And in particular, like, is there an upside question here you're ready to answer?
I mean, you feel like this favors Chase Hooper, both because the odds makers say it does, and the UFC in general is going to give Chase Hooper a soft touch. I got to be honest, I was really liking the run Chase Hooper was on until Alexander Hernandez. And even in that fight, I was like, oh, he's showing some stuff. And then he got caught. He got a little lazy at the end of the round and he got knocked out. He is just not like the most durable, which might be prohibitive, right? That just might preclude him from being a real contender, but he's still young and keeps getting better every time out. I mainly just want to see Chase Hooper continuing to show development, because I don't know. We've been following him since he was a child. I feel like he's part of the family. We want to see him grow and succeed. So sorry, Lance Gibson. I hope Chase Hooper shows that he is continuing to improve as a fist fighter.
Navajo Sterling is on this card. He is taking on Bruno Lopez. He is on a hell of a win streak, Navajo Sterling. He hasn't lost since he fought back in kickboxing in 2019. He has done quite well. However, he had a finish on the Contender Series, and he's had 3 UFC fights since then, including against Rodolfo Bellato, and he won it, but he has looked much more pedestrian since then. Bruno Lopez enters this contest at 32 years of age with a record, 14-2, and he's coming off a Dustin Jacoby loss, but does have some wins of some note before this. I don't know. Do you have a clear sense about this view or this fight? Excuse me.
I mean, I think Navajo Sterling's going to win a very Navajo Sterling fight.
Yeah.
Which is like, you would like him to be better than he is because he is young. He has gifts. He is from a good camp. You know, like he should be Carlos Ulberg, but he's kind of like the bad version of Carlos Ulberg. And maybe he gets better, but you'd like Tuco Tokos is a dude you should get out of there, you know, like not just sort of edge out decision wins. That is a tough road to hoe. Honestly, my biggest thought, have you seen the show Mobland?
I don't watch TV.
Oh, well, if any of you have, I thought this just now. He looks like the dipshit kid on Mobland, and now I can't get that out of my head.
Long Island, do you watch Mobland?
I've never even heard of it. I'm not gonna.
Oh man, it's where
does it air?
It's on Paramount Plus. It's Tom Hardy and Patty Considine and who's the James Bond from my age group? Why can't I think of his fucking Pierce Brosnan, Helen Mirren. It's a freaking great cast.
Okay, it's actually, I was gonna say the cast sounds pretty
good.
It
is not a good show, but it is a fun show.
Is it better than Love is Blind Germany, which my wife watches, you know?
I mean, I've never seen the Love is Blind Germany, so I can't really speak to that. But
she only watches the German one, or she's out of the English, so she's now resorted to the German.
You got it. She finished the other ones and is just trying to find any kind of Love Island.
My girlfriend did that once with like the UK ones, and we got like a couple episodes in. I was like, this is too much. The English are enough for me, you know.
If you like Guy Ritchie, like Mobland's like a Guy Ritchie show. I think he EP'd it or whatever. And it's bad trash, but it's kind of fun. And Navajo Sterling looks like the dipshit son in that show.
Bro, my wife watches this show in Colombia. It's like their #1 show in the country there, called La Casa de los Famosos, the House of the Famous.
I love that.
And
what a name.
It's the worst show you've ever seen in your life. It's basically their version of Big Brother. Except the people that they choose are all like these Medellin influencers. So the conversations are the fucking worst conversations you've ever fucking heard. and it's a 4-month season. 4-month season. It's like 4 months of my life. I have this shit playing on every night, and I'm like, holy fuck! I could ask my wife, how the fuck can you watch this?
What
She's
are
like,
you doing
watch
with
fist
your
fights."
life?
Is that the show where the dude? I feel like a year ago on TikTok, there was some Hispanic dude who got caught cheating on his girlfriend, like on camera, and then was devastated and like crying. It was awesome. It was great, but I can't remember enough.
So this one has a guy who got left by his wife on this season and doesn't even know it because they don't tell him what's happening in the outside world. He's been served with he's about to be served with divorce papers.
I mean, that's honestly great TV.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, you have to hear them converse. And it's like hearing, that line on Twitter you see, like two dumb bitches being like, exactly. It's that over and over and over again. All right. Last but not least, Ricky Simón taking on Adrian Yanez. This is an interesting one. Yanez, 32 years of age, but lost 3 of his last 4. Now, not necessarily against bad fighters. Rob Font, this was all the way back in 2023, good fighter. Jonathan Martinez, hell of a leg kicking game. It's how he got the stoppage. And Daniel Marcos out of Peru is one of the more underrated, I think, Hispanic kind of prospects out there in the sport. But these are all guys you would have thought that Yanez would have beaten. And I think he may have been favored in most of these to win. Simón is not, I think he's kind of leveled out, but has cardio, pace, wrestling. How do you assess the stakes here, Jed, and as well as how they match up?
Just looking at it, Yanez was not favored over Daniel Marcos. He was favored over everybody else. So yeah. I think this fight also is really like great. It's weird that it's so low on the card, but then you look at it and kind of makes sense. Basically, both dudes are just sort of out of the mix, right? Like they had moments they were top 15, top 20 guys in the weight class, fell enough that we're not there. There was like a real brief moment where I was like, Ricky Simón might be the truth because I don't know, one of his performances, like he might just be the greatest fighter of all time. That didn't end up panning out, frankly. But like it's a great style matchup. Ricky Simón's obviously going to try and wrestle him. Yanez has great hands and pretty good takedown defense. Like that's not really where his faults have been, though. I think Daniel Marcos got him down a few times. So I don't know what the stakes are here, like other than the losers, not like gone, but they're gone. They're out of ever really thinking about them much again. But like, this is just sort of a really fun fist fight to put on a card. I'm excited to watch.
What went wrong with Yanez? Was he overestimated? I'll give you one of my theories. I don't know if it's the right answer, or certainly not the most complete answer. A big part of it for me was defense. When he was dealing on guys and putting combinations together and then funneling them up through his pressure and his jab, I think you saw some pretty impressive things. But when they were able to move around and then land on him, or otherwise find ways to create openings on him, it just totally derailed his offense. So he actually does have pretty good ability, but I think it's a little lopsided in favor of his offense.
I mean, I think that's correct, right? Like Rob Font was durable enough to take it and then dished it back, and that was the end of it. And like, you've got a guy like Martinez who's just very, very composite, well-built. All parts of his game are there, and it struggled for him. Daniel Marcos, again, like a really well-rounded dude, can kind of take the fight everywhere. And if you have a defensive liability like Yanez does, then your offense needs to really get going fast. And he doesn't have that dynamic of an offense. It's good if he can start settling in and cooking, but he's not going to blow your doors off almost instantaneously. And so I'm with you. I think defense is sort of the biggest issue for him.
Long Island, what do we miss on this card that you have your eye on?
I mean, you literally just didn't talk about the 2 women's fights. The return of Casey O'Neill.
We talked about the co-main.
All right. Well, the 2 women's fights on the prelims. And then the other rematch on the card, Alexia Tainara taking on Bruna Brazil. I believe Tainara, besides Michael Chiesa, the second biggest favorite on the card, but she technically lost their first fight, so she's looking for redemption here. I mean, whatever, man. When I looked at this card,
she didn't technically lose. She lost.
No, she did lose. I'm just saying she's a -700 favorite now, so she's supposed to redeem her.
Why? How did that happen?
What happened? The favorite or the?
How did she go from losing to ending up being a minus?
Because the
700
loss was like their
favorite?
first or second professional fight. It was like on the regionals years ago. But the other thing is, dude, I was actually pleasantly surprised when I just looked at this card top to bottom. I was like, there's actually a lot of fun fights on it. Like, I'll actually gladly be doing the full card watch along tomorrow, 5 p.m. Tune in. Thank you very much.
This is what I mean, Jed. Like, this is where UFC is excelling to me. They are troublesome at the bottom end of their product because no one wants the apex slop. They're troublesome at the high end of the product because they don't want to make the fights that are the most important to make right now. But that in between tier, the fight night on the road tier, where they've got, former champion, surging contender, and a main event. This is actually where the product, I think, is actually the least deserving of criticism. There's actually a lot to like on this card.
Yeah, man. I really enjoy this card. I didn't think I did when I sort of just was casually looking at it. And then as I started to prep this week and dive into it, I was like, there are a lot of good things. It's probably a little long. There are a couple of I don't care about Tainara Brazil like that. Also a fight that wasn't supposed to happen on either side. It is a total
true.
Like it is a total Frankenstein of a fight. Like both women were not initially booked against each other. We took the circuitous route to get here in this proxy war that I don't care about, but like everything else or most everything has purpose. It has something of interest, either one side or both. The fights are not all of them, but many of them are competitive. Like this is as good as you're going to get these days for like a non-pay-per-view show. And like should be a really good time, right? Like this is what I hope and expect from a roadshow UFC card.
Yeah. Long Island, you wanted to chime in here lastly?
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is everything, like Jed just said, we want in a road card. Look at next weekend's card, and that is everything that is currently wrong with the product. Next weekend's card is arguably the worst card of the year. This weekend, I wish they almost took 4 or 5 fights off of this, sprinkled them on next weekend, vice versa, because next weekend is bad.
It's not arguable. It's the worst card of the year next weekend.
Can't wait. All right. Before we get to topic number 3, let's remind everyone about our good friends at Cuervo. And you guys know how this goes. April 8th, we'll be back in studio to get you ready for UFC 327. But right now, from face-off to final decision, Fight Night delivers the adrenaline, and Cuervo has the energy to match it. Whether you're hosting your crew at home or catching the action at the bar, Cuervo brings the good vibes that turn every round into a celebration. From margaritas to palomas, every main event simply tastes better with the world's most iconic tequila. So no matter who walks out with the belt, with Cuervo in hand, you're already celebrating like an undisputed champion. For every round, keep it fun, keep it Cuervo. One more time, April 8th, back in New York City for UFC 327 pregame preview. All right, Jed, let's move to topic number 3. We're going to talk about PFL in just a little bit, but the news that happened after last Monday was we're waiting on a Chris Avila fight, but in general, we know what the full card is now for Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano. It's a most valuable promotions card. It's going to be on Netflix, as we all know, May 16th, Los Angeles at the Intuit Dome. And in your main event, we already knew Rousey-Carano. Then you have Ngannou Lins, and you have Nate Diaz and Michael Perry. They finally added the other fights. Let me very quickly go through them. Saladin Parnasse taking on Kenny Cross. Junior Dos Santos taking on Robalista Spain. Mohamed Mokaev taking on Adriano Moraes. You have Lorenz Larkin taking on Jason Jackson. A couple of prospects down there, including but not limited to the sister of Poatan, Aileen Pereira, who I don't think is all that great, but, I see why she's on the card. All right, Jed, taking a look at this card. First, I want you to rate it. Like, give me some kind of a rating system and where this card would fit in. And then secondly, I will tell you, this is just anecdotal. I don't really know, but it does seem like fans seem to be pretty positive towards this event. What is this card doing right that is appealing to them? So first the rating, then why it's appealing.
Luke, I have 2 rating systems that I use for depending on quality, and we're going to use the better
length and girth.
Yes, it's always around, always around at the base. It's important.
Dicks everywhere, dicks.
I'll give this a 2 Michelin star system, which is based on the Michelin guide of,
That's
1 star means 1 star means that's really good. Like you should, if you're in town, you should go to this place. 2 star means this is worth a trip, not a big trip, but like you can plan. And 3 star means, dude, just go, like fly across the country, whatever. I think like this MVP card, if I was in this is going down at the Intuit Dome, if I was in the general Las Vegas area, I'd go to this card. Like, because the spectacle, the interest, like, are the fights elite? No, but some of them are pretty good, frankly, as they filled out this undercard. So like, I would definitely go and also tickets aren't even that expensive. Like I would plan a short drive, a couple hours to go see this if I were in the area. And I think, so I read the rundown, obviously, when you send this out and you start to do the prep. And I spent a lot of time thinking about why this is resonating, because it's a really good question that I hadn't considered, because I was just like, oh, I'm into this and people seem to be into this. And I think the answer, at least for me, maybe not for everybody else, man, they're trying. Like, this is what effort looks like. Is it the best card? No. Is this as good as the White House card? No, it's not. I'm not here to say that, but they don't have all the fighters to do that. But what MVP has done is they have put their best foot forward. And what we didn't get is like we got with the White House card, where it's like, well, we wanted these matchups, but instead we got these are the fights they wanted to book largely. There's obviously a little bit asterisk there because they wanted Francis Ngannou Verhoeven. Verhoeven got, took a boxing fight instead. But the rest of this is effort. And some of it's effort I didn't even really consider to be options, right? Like when they first announced this, Luke, we did how should they match make this out? And it never occurred to me that Nate Diaz, Mike Perry was a possibility. It never occurred to me that Muhammad Mokaev, Adrian Martins was a possibility. Like, they have filled this out with really high, like the best stuff they can make. They're making an effort. And like, I at least appreciate that they're doing the best they can, which has not felt like what the UFC has proffered us this year.
I think these are great answers. If I may, let me float to you one of my theories on this, because like you, I thought about this because when they first announced the main event, I was like, all right, it'll do big business, but I saw Rousey's career. I covered Gina's fights. Like, it doesn't move me in that particular way. It still doesn't. However, the accumulated total of this card now is kind of interesting to me. My theory on this is, among your reasons, I think it is a good explanatory way. The other one is like, partly it's just new and remixed, so it feels a little fresher. You got who had Muhammad Mokaev and Adriano Martins getting put together. I mean, heads no. Adriano Martins, Moraes, excuse me. Adriano.
I did it too.
Okay. Adriano Moraes. I'm dead wronging us in real time. It's not Martins, it's Moraes.
I just got to point out, Luke, you said it all last episode, and we got like a flood of dead wrong emails.
Yes, as I was watching, like, because it just happens.
It just happens. There's a lot of names you have to remember in this game. All right, Moraes. But like, who would have thought to put that pairing together? And also Saladin Parnasse and Kenny Cross. It's a great fight. Those two are my favorite fights on this card by a million miles, but they're unusually new remixed pairings. So that's big. But the real reason I think that this is kind of resonating, Jed, is that, again, not by just the main event itself, but like the event, is that people are pointing out that these fights are frivolous, right? The main event, what does it really mean for women's 145, whatever the fuck that even is anymore? Like, not much really, right? Or, Nate Diaz, Mike Perry. Like, do we think that this tells us who the top welterweight in the world is? Like, of course we don't, not even close. So in that sense, they're frivolous. But I actually think that that's working out for it, because I think because it has star power and because it's remixed in new and interesting and novel ways, to your point, they're also just trying and spending money to build up the grandiosity. And then on top of it, it's like, oh, if Nate Diaz wins, is he close to a title shot? Who gives a fuck? Just have a good time. Like, the fact that it's low stakes, actually in this particular case, now not always, certainly you need stakes. You need architecture. You need the weight of, like, this guy's fighting for a UFC contract. Those are good forces to have generally. But I'm just saying, I think this card works because it doesn't have any of that pretension. It doesn't matter. Oh, where's Ronda going to go from here? Whatever big ass fights they can make if she wins. You know what I mean? Like, there's no heaviness to it about being attached to some kind of architecture or system. It just feels free and light and fun and frivolous, because I think by design, that's what they're going for. They're going to make fun and frivolity something that seems to be missing. And rather than it being a marker of, a lack of quality. It's a marker of the amount of fun you can have. It's actually, I think, to me, an interesting time for the effort.
Dude, this has been my longest standing take, maybe in the whole sport, is like, stop doing what you're doing, PFL, and your brand just needs to be we're the fun organization. Like MVP just did that in one thing, and maybe they don't ever put on another card. I think they probably will, but like they did it. There's like, hey, look, what if we're just fun? What if we just have a good time? And that's all. We're just vibes. And you know what the sport needs right now, Luke? It needs some vibes, frankly. So this is awesome. Like I am very much looking forward to the MVP card. I think they did about as good as you could ever hope for them to do their first time out. Now, whether that translates, whether all the fights ends up being fun, they've never, these are not, inexperienced promoters. I'm sure that they will put forth a fine live product, but your first time doing something new always comes with challenges. We'll see how that manifests, but broadly, I'm pumped about this one.
Long Island, you have been a critic of this card and in general, a hater. Where are you now that you see the entire effort? What is your temperature on this?
I mean, dude, there's some fun fights on it, but I gotta say, Jed, giving it 2 Michelin stars is wild to me. I would not drive to go see it. This card could be at MSG, and I am not going to that card.
I do. Hold on a second, but here's the other part. At the price point they're selling it, it's very affordable.
First of all, I would probably go with media. I wouldn't pay anyway, but the point is, like, I wouldn't waste my time going. It's like going to a PFL card. I feel like it's like, sure, you're going to see some legends on it. You're going to see some old washed UFC veterans, and you might see some fun.
No, it's bigger than that.
Dude,
PFL can't even sniff something like this.
I've been to many PFL cards. They are fun.
It feels PFL-y to me, where it's just like, yeah, there's some names I know on it, and there's some fun prospects, but it's not enough to, like, I don't know, dude. It's going to do good numbers. Don't get me wrong. You're right. I am a hater on it, but I just feel like, first of all, I'm not driving. I wouldn't even go. If that shit is fucking down the road from me right now, I would go.
You're full of shit. You would go. If it was at MSG,
hell no. I wouldn't.
Ludicrous take.
I wouldn't. Like, if PFL, bro, you brand this PFL right now, and I feel like you guys wouldn't. You'd be like, oh, this card sucks.
Well, yeah, attaching it to a brand that's got no equity is not going to help much.
But it's the same exact card. It's the same exact card.
This is the level of celebrity,
Netflix shit.
Dude, just Ronda alone introduces a level of celebrity that PFL has never even approximated. Like, I don't know what we're talking about here.
All right, Ronda sure is a level above like Ngannou, but they've had a card headlined by Ngannou. They've had this exact gimmick before, essentially.
No, dude, this is a much greater level of celebrity.
I don't know.
I fundamentally disagree with that.
I'll die on this.
Terrible take. This is you, bro. Straight up, Luke, like, this is going to be the biggest MMA event of all time. I would absolutely drive 3 hours to be part of. Like, more people are going to watch this event than have ever watched an MMA fight by a lot. I would absolutely drive to that. And it's going to be pretty fun, man. Like, I genuinely believe we're going to have fun.
Dude, sometimes you just like to eat junk food. This is just junk food. You know what I mean? It's just junk food. And every once in a while,
shit. I just got to say, you were giving me shit when the UFC, you asked for steak and they give you Jello. This is fucking Jello too, bro. And you just said it's junk food and you're willing to eat it.
It's a little more than Jello. But that's not right.
If I go to a prime steakhouse and you offer me shit, I'm going to be upset. But if I go to McDonald's, I want McDonald's.
You're going to the Intuit Dome, the prime steakhouse, the prime venue, just to get this shit
No.
card.
To me, this is more like, hey, when I want a steak, I don't want to be served Jello. That's one problem. This is, to me, trying to find a really good Philly cheese steak. You know what I mean? And you go to like a nice place that makes it real fucking good. It's not a steak. It can never be a steak. It's not on the same level as that, but it's got its own kind of trashy value. That's what this has to me. You know,
you now have me debating internally if would I rather have a great steak or a great Philly cheesesteak, and that's a tough fight. I don't know.
It depends on the steak. If the steak is truly next level, then I want the steak. You know, but if it's going to be shitty ass steak, I'm going to pick cheesesteak.
What kind of steak man are you? What cut do you go for?
Oh, I'd say first of all, I'm a big prime rib guy. I love prime rib. I'm not too picky on cut. Really depends on the place. I can go strip, you know, depending. More recently, I'll go bone in. ribeye kind of thing. What about you?
I'm a pussy. Give me a filet, Pittsburgh blue. Perfect.
Dude, you eat that shit. I remember I used to work at a steakhouse. It was my first job after college before I got a decent job. And I mean, that was a fine job too for, the summer after college. But anyway, it was in Williamsburg, Virginia. I mean, there's, if you're going to do a work at a steakhouse, try to work at a place that's not in Williamsburg, Virginia. But I had never even heard of blue until someone introduced it to me. And I was like, so wait, these motherfuckers don't want you to cook their shit? And they're
just in the general vicinity of the fire. That's it.
And the way it was explained to me was they want you to cook it just enough so they don't get sick.
Correct. Dude, it's so good.
I think I could do that with like Wagyu, but I couldn't do it with like regular American steak.
I would never do that at fucking Outback, but like you go to a real steakhouse, I will people, because I don't even know if Outback would do it. Like if you're like, can I do blue? I assume they'd be like, no. But you go to, there are a couple of very good steakhouses in Atlanta. There's one right next to me that I love to go to. And man, that's the best.
All right. Let's go to topic number 4 here. The other major event taking place this weekend is PFL Pittsburgh. We talked about it on Monday, a dueling middleweight non-title main events. It's headlined in this particular case by Johnny Eblen taking on Brian Battle. This will be Brian Battle's PFL debut. Is it fair to say that the common thread in this fight are the multiple ways, Jed, that frankly both Johnny Eblen and Brian Battle need their own forms of redemption?
I guess, but I don't know why. When I was reading the docket, something just struck me wrong. Is like, it doesn't feel like redemption's the right word, but I can't think of the right word for Brian Battle because like for Eblen, yeah, he lost. And this is the return for Brian Battle. It's like, okay, Eblen lost because he lost. Brian Battle hasn't lost, but just sort of was undone by his own arrogance and hubris as a tragic hero. But like in the tragic hero arc, when you are undone by it, you just get to know that you did it. And then you still have a tragic end. Like that's how Sophocles fucking works, So I think that's the hope that you go with is that, or maybe not the hope, but that's how it feels like this should be Brian Battle's comeuppance, which he hasn't really received. Whereas Eblen feels very redemptive, right? Like, hey man, you were seconds away from beating Costello von Steenis and continuing this run. And now the worst thing happened. Can you get back on track? He just re-signed with the PFL. So it's not like he wins and then leaves. He wins and maybe rematches von Steenis, but I guess you're right? Like Battle is trying to redeem himself, but has he said something that makes you think he's learned the error of his ways? Because I haven't seen that if he has said it.
I'm not so sure about that part. Oh, where did I go? Where am I? Did you lose me, Long Island?
It's my show now.
What the fuck happened here?
How do you have audio? Gone? There you go.
I don't know why you're gone.
This is fun. Well, while you figure that out
now.
You can hear both of us. There we go. You glitched out on us there, Long Island.
My bad. I got the two computer situation. I fucked up. We're good.
All right, very good. I forgot what point I was going to make here about. Did Brian Battle learn his lesson? Well, I mean, let's see if he makes weight. Right, that's kind of a pretty critical component here. Let's see if he makes weight, and let's see what he looks like when he gets out after it. I think also like. I'm not sure if I'm in lockstep with the fan base on this particular equation, and maybe you are. I'm not sure. The fan base has been pretty high on Brian Battle. He had a pretty good win streak for the most part. Obviously it's not without blemish, but I'm saying in general, for example, the Jussé fight in France, where he just kind of battered the guy over time, getting in his face, lancing behind the jab, was pretty impressive. And I think and then he talked big on the mic. Like people were like, "Oh, he's a guy to pay attention to." But like to my mind, while I think he's certainly intriguing and that's a nice win, and certainly the one against Randy Brown, he got, we'll talk about that in a minute. But like to me, in general, Jed, he hasn't beaten anyone that makes me go, "Oh wow, this guy is destined for something quite big." Beating Eblen to me would be exactly that kind of a win. And I guess what I'm trying to point out is I find the hype around him intriguing because it's, of course, hype often precedes authenticity. But to me, this one is like very much in excess of what we now know to be true. So it's not declaring he can't. It's just that I found it kind of intriguing that the fan base jumped on this guy when he's clearly good, but it remains very unclear how good he actually is.
Yeah, this would be the best one of his career by a lot, right?
Yeah,
Like by a
exactly.
substantial margin. And it feels like people just got behind him because he was having some good performances, right? Not over the best competition, but he was having good performances. And when he was on the mic and saying stuff, it felt authentic, right? Like he showed himself. And I feel like we underestimate how much people can gravitate to a specific kind of self. You know, like I think if he had been full Colby Covington, maybe that doesn't really work for everybody because it's obviously an act or a put on. But Brian Battle just kind of seemed like a bit of an ass. And that is going to engender feelings one way or another, especially when you're coming off of several good performances. And then the controversy of the weight cuts, etc. So, yeah, I don't know where the public stands on him as like a guy to pay attention to. But this fight, I think, is good booking. And if he wins, we will simply have to pay attention to him because Johnny Eblen may not be a top 15 guy, though he probably is in the neighborhood. But he's certainly like a top 20, 25 guy at middleweight. So Brian, like this will be the best one of his career.
All right. These odds to me are correct because I did some tape study ahead of obviously today's show. Johnny Eblen sitting at minus 395 versus Brian Battle at plus 310. You know, it is true, for example, if you go to the fight, as I mentioned, between Brian Battle and Randy Brown, that was his last UFC fight. He gets, I should say, Brown gets no takedowns in the second or the third, and he attempted, although also it should be noted that Brian Battle went like 0 for 4 on takedowns in the third round. But Brown did take him down very easily 2 times in the first round, once off a judo trip and then one off a body lock. And then more importantly, Jed, if you look at Brian Battle's game, he lances behind the jab, which I think is a fun part of it. He'll mix it up into clinch, which I think is another fun part of it. But he loves to pressure people physically, like locked hands into the fence and to like get into that kind of clinch scenario. And I'm like, that seems like a really fucking bad idea against Johnny Eblen, who I don't think is as well-rounded as he needs to be to maximize his potential. But just on the wrestling side of things, you're like serving it up for him if he does that. Do you think that this style of fighting is what's going to trip up Brian come Saturday night?
Yeah, I think this is probably going to be bad for him. I mean, also like I don't know if this is his first middleweight fight. I don't remember what the DBXs I think were middleweight, but that's also a little bit different. And those were not very good fighters that he competed against. But, you know, like he mostly was a welterweight. He couldn't make weight. So like, I think he'll just be giving up some natural size in general and against a very good dude who has a style that should on paper pose real problems for him. And I don't, you know, this is only 3 rounds, right? So it's not like he can even maybe hold on to pull off a miracle comeback like Von Steenis did at the end of that fight. Like he's got to find a way to get ahead because I don't love his chances to finish Eblen, who is in general quite durable. Yeah, I think Johnny Eblen's getting back in the win column on Saturday.
Then we takes us to, and I think, by the way, if Eblen, I mean, winner here probably gets a title shot no matter what. Eblen, certainly. Here's your rankings for PFL at the time, or at the moment, I should say. Van Steen is currently your champion, obviously. Eblen sitting at 1. Edwards, who just fucking lost in the worst way imaginable, basically, sitting at number 2. Kasanganai, who's in the main event, co-main event, excuse me, we'll talk about him, and then Rasta is sitting there as well. Battle is sitting at 9, but obviously, if you beat the number 1 guy, it's probably going to be you. So let's talk about that co-main event. Dalton Rasta is coming into this fight after suffering a terrible loss against Fabian Edwards. He got head kicked in the 3rd round. Impa Kasanganai has certainly been up and been down. His ups have been pretty great. His downs have been pretty low. He did lose to Dovletsdan Yagshimuradov back in 2024 and then back-to-back Fabian Edwards. But he rebounded against Andrew Sanchez, scoring a stoppage in round number 3. So what's the context here? When you look at this matchup between them, I certainly expect action, and I do think they have an outside case for a title shot depending on how it goes. I'm not sure what else to say about the context of this matchup.
Yeah, there's not much to say. This is just like a good fight, right? Like a high quality, top ranked middleweights in PFL. Like this is Paulo Costa versus Jared Cannonier, you know, like sure. And in the PFL, that means maybe you're getting a title fight. Probably not, because I do think the winner of Eblen, the main event, is going to get it. But like this is a pretty good fight. Like if you were purely looking at this as like, what is a quality matchup? Again, PFL's done very well. I learned this in our pre-show. Dalton Rasta from Pittsburgh, so they're taking a local guy there. Like they're the bones of something good here from PFL. And like I'll tune in tomorrow. It will depend on the time frame, right? Because a lot of stuff's happening tomorrow, and they're going late with this PFL card. But good matchup.
I forgot to mention this on the Brian Battle part, but if you just look at his UFC numbers, so take that for what it is worth. His takedown defense, you want to guess what it is percentage-wise?
Low, like 55.
Very close, 53. Not great. Not great. I think against a guy like Johnny Eblin, that's going to prove to be very, very difficult to overcome.
That's not going to go well.
Yeah, that's a tough one. There are some other interesting elements on this card. Julio Arce, former UFC vet, Colombian guy, by the way, a 3-fight win streak, taking on this kind of, I don't know if I'd call him a prodigy, Paragande. I'm not sure I pronounced his last name, Paragande. But he's 24 years old. He's undefeated, a little bit inexperienced, but pretty interesting. And put up the card one more time if you can. Sorry about that. And then depending on the Ariana Lipsky, now Ariana De Silva's on this card, taking on Inaba, who was a Bellator veteran. I don't know what your level of interest is, but there you have it.
I'm interested in the Paragande fight because he's young, he's talented. He first came like on my radar at a PFL where he beat a dude I used to train with. And I was like, and I beat him pretty convincingly, Akeem Bashir, who's like not a great fighter, but you know the guy. So you're like, oh, let's go, Akeem. You're on the PFL. And then he got cooked. Young dude, seems really talented, some amateur experience where he was also quite good. So like, that seems like the sort of guy that PFL wants to grow. And Julio Arce is like a solid veteran test. And that's a really good fight.
All right, fair enough. I'm not even going to ask Long Island Luke about the rest of that. Let's go to, if we can, topic number 5. We'll do MMA hits and misses, just kind of smaller stories, sort of, from around the sport. Okay, Jed, it was announced this week that Manel Kape is going to face off for the second time against Kyoji Horiguchi. You can see the graphic here. It'll be June 20th. It'll be in Las Vegas at the Apex, which is fucking hilarious. This is where they fought in the Saitama Super Arena the first time on the left side of your screen. This is what it's going to be on the right. Now, Jed, I'm not going to complain about the matchmaking. Hell of a fight. We were just talking about it, right? The non-title top contender fights, the UFC is actually doing a pretty good job of those so far in 2026. But Jesus Christ, we're putting this in the fucking Apex. What's happening here?
It's so stupid, man. Like, it's so like, I mean, this would be a perfect fight to take to Japan. You know, if you're trying to go back to that market, which they're kind of, there seems like there's a semi-permanent, well, maybe we'll go back to Japan conversation. This would have been obviously ideal for that. I love the fight. I love the matchmaking. Fight makes sense at this point, right? Like, I thought Kape was going to get the title shot. They gave it to Tyra. I don't really have any issues with that. Probably should have given it to Kape, but it's fine. So he's going to have to fight again. You pair the two of these together. Pantoja's still in there. Like, we don't really know where his timeline is, but the winner of this fight obviously their next fight should be for the belt. I hate when that is the case and then you are in the Apex, right? Like, you're never going to build this weight class if its job is to main event the Apex, because like, that's just not how stars are born. Stars aren't born in the UFC Apex main events. This should be somewhere on a road show, preferably Japan, but anywhere you want to go is fine. But, set all that aside, that rocks. Their first fight was fun as hell. Can't wait to see him do it again.
All right, our next one is going to be our friends at Cuervo helping us through with this one. What we're mixing up, presented by Cuervo for every round. Keep it fun. Keep it Cuervo. April 8th, one more time, April 8th, we're going to be back in studio for UFC 327 pregame preview. Let's talk about this one. Rumors are swirling, Jed, that Islam Makhachev would return. I think they said in July, and then Dana White put out this on Instagram. He said, not true. It's August. I want to say something here if I can. I have seen a lot of speculation that Islam, remember there was like, oh, he has a hand injury, which then you see him hitting a heavy bag and he has no injury at all. And I saw a lot of people running to the idea that he was offered a fight against Ilya and ducked it. Let me just tell you what I heard, which I don't, there's some parts I don't know that I just can't say. But what I have heard, and I feel like pretty good sourcing on this, the notion that Islam ducked anyone or denied any fight could not be further from the fucking truth. That my understanding was that, and I'm not this part, I don't know what the issue is, but there were some other factor, some other force that caused some of the bigger matchups that were coming his way to not go through. And what those are, your guess is certainly as good as mine, but I had it on pretty good authority. He absolutely ducked zero fucking smoke. So I want to kind of put that out there. If it's going to be in August, so now we're not going to have, obviously they wouldn't put him or Connor on the same card. Who do you think it might be? Who do you think it should be? And what do you make of some of these kinds of claims about him ducking smoke?
I'm going to address the last part first. This is just the Islam Makhachev story, which is really frustrating. Like, it's really, really stupid. And I think there are a number of reasons why. I think there are some people in this space who have inadvertently or maybe inadvertently helped to drive this. Like, he's the best pound for pound fighter on the planet. Do you really think he's ducking fucking anyone? No. Like, have you ever heard that man talk and thought, that's the man who doubts his ability to defeat people? Of course not. Like, it's a ludicrous thing, but it is the story of Islam Makhachev. Like, when he retires, I don't know if he'll be like in the real GOAT conversation or not. He's one of, if not the best fighters of this generation. When he retires, we will all be like, man, we kind of didn't really appreciate him, huh? Like, we just sort of told that guy to fuck off constantly. He was just the best dude in the world for like a really long time. And some of it is match made, like just timing. You know, he fought Alexander Volkanovski twice, who is obviously very beloved. Fought Dustin Poirier, who's very beloved. You know, these sort of things happen, but like it was always ludicrous. The whole Topuria saga has been very, very ridiculous to me. But like, the most infuriating part is people being like, Ilya Topuria has scared Islam Makhachev up to welterweight, which is an on its face ridiculous assessment. But that's just sort of how we are with Islam. Like, we hate him. The public broadly dislikes him for reasons that I don't think are valid, but whatever.
Yeah. I just want to be as clear as I possibly can. I heard this from a couple of different people, and it was the notion that Islam was the issue here was fucking comical. And I think it's comical that he gets put in these situations constantly. People are, to your point, you're so right. People are like, oh, Islam doesn't want these fights. And then eventually some of these fights get made and he fucking bulldozes these people. It's ridiculous. But one more time, that's what we're mixing up. Presented by our friends at Cuervo for every round. Keep it fun. Keep it Cuervo. We'll see you guys April 8th back in New York City. Continuing on for our hits and misses here, Jed. Let's see. We have one championship announced yesterday that they're cutting their strawweight division and some of the fighters that were going through with it. I don't know if I have any big reaction other than they're not necessarily not an MMA organization anymore, Jed, but they're only like, it's very clear at this point, they're only a very partial MMA organization, and they're much more a kind of a striking based martial arts promotion that does some MMA. Do you agree with that?
How do you disagree with that at this point? Like, they have consistently just sort of bottomed out their MMA for years now. Like, and that makes sense. Like, apparently, you know, talking to some people, it seems like the numbers they release are always curious. And I don't want to say they're false because I can't say that affirmatively, but like, they've made good broad decisions, right, to focus on the things that they are very good at, which is making Muay Thai and kickboxing matchups, a little bit of grappling stuff. You know, the Rotolos are still over there that they are pitched behind, but like, none of their successes of the last like 4 or 5 years have been MMA related, really. And so it kind of just feels like once DJ retired, the last thing they had that really made them super invested in this left. And now they can slowly just kind of say goodbye to it and focus on the things that they are best at, which, you know, good for them. It's good business.
Brock Lesnar, we don't have the whole thing, but he told a Barstool podcast this week, and here's just sort of a quote you can pull from it. Quote, Dana White wanted nothing to do with me. This was on the Spit and Chicklets, which is a hockey podcast that they do, Jed. And
why was he on that?
I'm not sure how they booked that, but they booked it. But
Does his son play hockey? Maybe his son plays hockey.
His son does play hockey. Yes.
Okay.
Both his kids are, I think, D1 athletes. Or maybe his kid's still in high school, but his daughter is certainly a D1 athlete. But he had said in this interview a few different things. One, he had to like buy his own ticket to the event just to track down Dana to make it happen, and that Dana had no interest in it. You know, it's kind of funny. Like I can't claim that before Brock Lesnar came into MMA that I was high on that idea. I didn't know anything about pro wrestling. I didn't know how big Brock Lesnar was. What I can tell you is I remember the first time I looked at my traffic on bloodyelbow.com after the Brock Lesnar versus Frank Mir fight, and I was like, holy fucking shit. I'd never even seen traffic numbers like that at any point prior to running that site. And that's when I knew this was going to be a different animal. But like between that and like not wanting Rousey in there, it's like Dana often has to get talked into very good decisions that the organization ultimately takes.
Dude, I love that story from you because I don't know if you like read or watched the full interview or read like a full write-up, but that's exactly how Brock tells the story for Dana. It's like, Dana didn't want to be involved with me. I had to run up and buy my own ticket, which was wild. Like that part of the story, assuming it's true, which is no reason not to believe. I was like, that's insane that he like just made this happen, but Dana didn't want to. So he gave me a one-time trial basis and I lost. And I was in the locker room in the back saying, oh, I fucked it up. And then Dana walked in and was like, dude, have you seen your pay-per-view numbers? Let's work out a deal.
Yeah.
It's the best story. I loved that story. This was awesome. Like I had no idea any of this. You know that Dana, because it always just felt like Dana would have been very invested in this, right? Like, because I mean, shit, Dana let James Toney fucking fight in the UFC, man. Like, at least Brock Lesnar had something that you could maybe get behind. And even in the loss to Frank Mir, you saw something outside of the pay-per-view numbers that was like, okay, there's something to work with here. And then he became a champion in 4 fights, and we know the rest of the story. But to your point, that was the first thing when I read this headline, the first thought I had before I like read into the story was, man, Dana just misses all the time and has succeeded in spite of himself a lot, which is a great skill to have. I mean, I'm still employed and mostly I'm shit at my job. So way to go, Dana. Good work.
And then we got a couple more here very quickly. Let's throw this up from Colby Covington. In the future, you won't see me involved in politics. Loyalty is never rewarded. There's a million different angles from this one, but he is basically what he has done, Jed, is declare that I'm going to be the living embodiment of a MAGA troll. Like he's just dropping that whole gimmick. I'm not saying he like all of a sudden now he's like, AOC's #1 booster, but he's not doing that gimmick as like a way to attract attention anymore. Your biggest takeaway from that is?
This is hilarious. Like it is, outside of it being just an on the nose metaphor for all of this of like, I really like this for my own personal gain, but the moment I don't get the thing that I should have gotten, AKA fighting on the White House, fuck it all to hell. I'm not involved. It's just like, it's so spot on. And I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm genuinely interested to see where Colby Covington goes, like the character, because he's so like, that is his brand is this. And so if he's moving away, does he try to like be a late career good guy, Colby? Like, how does this work? I would like to see it, but this was deeply funny.
It's unbelievable. He should become a Bernie bro and like really come full circle. And then last but not least, Paul Hughes was scheduled to headline the Belfast event for PFL. Again, PFL making a good call to do that in Belfast. Unfortunately, he is injured. He says, quote, I'm out of PFL Belfast, did everything I possibly could. Surgery next week to fix the issue. I'm sorry to all my supporters. I'm absolutely crushed. The card's going to go ahead, and he mentions, some other Irish teammates who are going to be on there. I'll be back as soon as humanly possible. The obstacle is the way. I don't have much of a take there, Jed. Just, it sucks for PFL, but I think so far they put Van Steenis, they put him in Spain. Belfast, they have him, or at least they tried to put him. Dalton Rosta, I think, is from the Pittsburgh area, so they've got him on this card. Like they're trying to do a more. They're trying to make a better effort at marrying what's on that card with the geographic location in which it takes place. And I feel like that's a lost art in MMA, especially relative to boxing, but unfortunate just the same.
I think this is the best thing the PFL is doing right now. It's very unfortunate what has occurred with Paul Hughes. And that's sort of the downside to do something like this, right? You are putting a lot of eggs in one fighter basket. And if this happens, like that card, I comped it yesterday. We talked about this on BTL. And I was like, that card's just a Mana card now. Like no one's going to care. It doesn't really have any juice. Whereas with Paul Hughes, it felt like, oh, we're PFL Belfast. Now this is just like a regional PFL card. And that's okay, but it stings. But you still credit PFL for trying this because like the UFC took Stipe to freaking Ohio once, like they don't do that. And so it's good that the PFL is trying to do things like this.
All right. That is our top 5. And now it is the part of the show that Long Island Luke gets to drive. My friend, take it away.
Let's go, guys. First up, we're going to play everybody's favorite game. It is time for Rank That Card.
Rank that card! It sucks.
All right. First up, LT. Who's the underdog with the best chance of winning? Joe Pyfer, Alexa Grasso, or Kyle Nelson?
Kyle Nelson 1. Pyfer 2, Grasso 3.
Ooh, Jed?
I mean, Kyle Nelson's definitely 1 for sure. That's not good. He just has
Rex
to
is
survive.
just too reckless. Yeah.
Just survives 4 minutes and you're going to win the fight. Pyfer 2, just because let's be different. I'll say Grasso 2, Pyfer 3. I really just think Izzy's going to show out. I'm probably going to look real stupid, but I think Izzy's going to win this fight. So I'll go Izzy. I'll go Pyfer last.
I hope you're right. And I also think Grasso has a better chance of winning than Joe Pyfer, I feel like. Although the odds would tell you otherwise. All right, Jed. Who's most likely to win by finish? Le'Veon Douglas, Michael Chiesa, or Navajo Sterling?
Chiesa is obviously number 1. Though, if you listen to No Bets Barred this week or BTL yesterday, Michael Chiesa by KO. That is my favorite bet of the whole year. Let's go, baby.
Just a donation. What are the odds?
I don't know what they are currently. At the time when I got it, it was plus 1,300 because he has never TKO'd anyone in his professional career.
That's why I'm saying it's a donation. DraftKings right now has Michael Chiesa by KO at plus 800.
But Long Island, that's where you're wrong. It's not a donation because this is his last fight. Do you think that in 15 years, Michael Chiesa wants to tell his kids, I wasn't man enough to knock somebody out as a professional fighter? He doesn't want to look his son in the eye and say that. He's going to knock out Nico Price, who got knocked out like 50 days ago.
We'll just word it differently. I mean,
No,
I have fight does not go the distance, so I'm rooting for you, Jim.
Yeah, Chiesa is clearly the most likely to finish. Larry and Douglas next. Navajo Sterling doesn't finish people. Is very sad, but that's just the reality. So that's the order.
But he is fighting a guy who gets finished, Bruno Lopez. So, LT, you got any different order?
I'll go in the order you see. Douglas, Chiesa, Sterling.
Okay, I think that's fair. All right, LT, whose stock will drop the most with a loss on Saturday? Chase Hooper, Izzy, or Alexa Grasso?
Man.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because Chase Hooper, not necessarily the highest stock, but he's taking on a guy he should beat. Izzy, obviously, taking on, you guys said, arguably
the answer is probably Izzy, because this, as we talked about, represents, if he were to lose to Pyfer, it'd be the worst guy he ever lost to.
How about Alexa Grasso, though, coming from winning the belt to now winless if she loses in 3
That's
straight?
True. But she's still fighting like a top contender.
True.
So I'll go Izzy. I'm actually going to go Hooper second because I feel like that might actually really damage how he's perceived. And then I'll go Grasso third, but I think you could swap those last two.
Okay.
I think you can make an argument for any of it, honestly, but I'm going to agree with Izzy because I think if he loses, it will just be like, hey, man, retire. And neither of the other two will be in that situation. I'll agree, though. I'll say Hooper second because I think Grasso, there's just the baked in story of, well, she lost to the 3 of the 4 best women. That's not that bad.
Yeah.
Whereas Hooper, it'd be damaging. So I'll agree with Luke.
All right. Jed, who's most likely to avoid a second straight loss? Adrian Yanez, Julian Erosa, or Marcin Tybura?
Man, I can see see any of them winning, right? I don't think that's necessarily true, but I'll go Yanez. I think he's going to beat Ricky Simone. I mean, I don't think Juicy J is going to beat Larry and Douglas. And since Luke said he's the most likely to get a finish, I'll put Julian Erosa last, and I'll do Marcin Tybura, because like that fight can just get really ugly and heavyweighty real fast, and he can sort of win 2 of the 3 rounds.
LT, you got any different?
I'll go Tybura 1. I'll go in reverse order. I'll go Tybura, Erosa, Yanez.
Luke, how excited are you to watch Marcin Tybura Tyrell Fortune
cut him
in the middle of tomorrow?
Dude,
cut
he's
him now.
40 and he's thriving. He just got knocked out by Delia. He was on like a 3-fight win streak before that.
Cut him.
No, I'm taking him as a dog, by the way. Let's go, Tybura. LT, which tough contestant or coach has the biggest chance of losing on Saturday? Alexa Grasso, Michael Chiesa, or Julian Erosa?
I'll say Grasso 1. Erosa 2, Chiesa 3. Fuck what the odds say.
I'm going to just go on the odds and go Erosa, Grasso, Chiesa.
Yeah, I kind of agree with the odds too. Jed, who's most likely to challenge for a UFC belt one day? Alexia Tainara, Mansour Abdul Malik, or Navajo Sterling?
Tainara is probably the most. Sterling. Interestingly, this is in the reverse order of how much I like them as fighters functionally, but Tainara, the weight class is bad and she's pretty decent. Sterling, the weight class is atrocious. He probably gets there. And then Mansour Abdul Malik will be last, even though I like him the most of the 3 of these.
LT?
Mansour number 1. Tainara 2, Sterling 3.
Okay, fair enough. LT, who's got the most intimidating nickname? Again, just go by the nickname. Gunslinger, T-Rex, or Body Bags? Like, you got to fight Gunslinger today, or you got to fight T-Rex later.
I'll go in the order you have it, because I've known a lot of T-Rexes. Now, this is different. This is T.W. Rex. And I knew a guy named Terry T-Rex Cohen. I've known a bunch of dudes who have like T-Rex in their name. But I do like the twist that Terrence McKinney uses on it. So I think it deserves some credit. But I like Gunslinger. It sounds fucking dope. The word gun is cool. You know, it just kind of is cool. And Body Bags with a Z just tells me that we're not reading books at this point in our lives anymore.
Dude, but body. All right. Well, I'll let Jed go first before I make my point. Jed, what is your order?
I agree for similar. Gunslinger is a cool word. That's just a really cool
it's
word.
A great fucking word.
How are you guys not intimidated by body bags?
Because we're adults.
And he's going to carry you home in a fucking body bag, like
with a Z, dude.
Yeah.
Anytime someone takes a word and remixes it with the letter Z, unless they're easy E, they're fucking stupid.
I always imagine
dead
it
giveaway.
Like, I always imagine it like a Kimbo backyard brawl, and I'm sitting there, I'm shadow boxing, I'm getting ready, and they're like, yo, Long Island, you're fighting Body Bags. And then I just have like 2 minutes to like visualize who the fuck.
No. You're not fighting Body Bags. You're fighting Body Bags with a Z.
Body Bags.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of
like,
all right. Well,
and the other side, if you're just doing it on what you hear, like, I don't know. Have you ever seen Jurassic Park? Like, T-Rex is the most intimidating motherfucker.
It's scary
on life.
too. Yeah. So
Body Bags is still the worst of those 3.
Nah, I don't know. Jed, who's the most entertaining fighter on the card? Ignacio Bahamondes, Izzy, or Terrence McKinney?
Pure entertainment. It's Terrence McKinney. He's fought 25 times and he's never been to the judges. So Terrence McKinney is number 1. If you're just like dipshit fun, Bahamondes is number 2. I'm going on dipshit fun. Izzy's obviously the most entertaining if you're like Luke and you only want the highest, most elevated of combat sports. But I like big dumb bozos too. So give me McKinney, Bahamondes, Adesanya.
LT?
There are ways to measure this about like, you know, McKinney's never had the entertaining moment that Izzy had in his win over Poetan, right? Like, you know, there's ways to kind of look at this. I'd say on a per minute basis, it's definitely Terrence McKinney.
Hell yeah.
Right. I mean, pound for pound per minute basis.
I always say, dude, next to Justin Gaethje, they're like 1A, 1B, most exciting
It's
fighters.
just he's shot out of a fucking cannon. He's the Evel Knievel of MMA. Like I truly believe that. So he's got to be one. And yeah, I think Izzy. I mean, Bahamondes is like the boring part of him has not been nearly as boring as the boring part of Izzy. Izzy's been more boring in that regard, but the entertaining parts of Izzy have been way fucking better. So I'm gonna go with that.
That's fair. All right, LT.
It's a good argument.
Who have more UFC fights after this card? Marcin Tybura, Nico Price, or Israel Adesanya?
Probably Tybura, to be honest with you.
He's 40 plus, and if he loses on Saturday, that's 2 in a row. And if he gets finished, 2 finishes in a row.
Dude, they've got motherfuckers on his roster who've lost 5 or 6 in a row. They don't give a fuck.
Well, Nico being one of them. So you think Nico will last?
Yeah, so I'll go Tybura, Izzy, Nico last. Yeah.
Wow.
I just want to point out the sheer sadness in Luke's voice when he said probably Tybura.
Dude, I can't with heavyweight. It's so fucking boring. It's so fucking boring, you know?
Jed, what's your order?
Luke's got it right. This will be 1 or 2 losses in a row. It's heavyweight. He'll stay forever. I think Nico gets his walking papers with the loss, which again, they should just keep him on ice until the next, popular guy retires. But I think Izzy will fight again, win, lose, or draw this weekend. So right. Luke had the right order.
All right, and last but not least, which fighter from Washington is most likely to win? Terrence McKinney, Chase Hooper, or Michael Chiesa?
Also, isn't Lance Gibson from Washington too?
He's from Canada, I believe, but fought in Washington a bunch. Also, he's fighting Chase Hooper, and I'm going to give Chase Hooper more Washington cred.
Lance Gibson was born in Seattle.
All right, but he reps Canada, so he grew like Chase has just been in Washington the whole time. I'll give him more of a...
His dad relocated, I think, to Canada. That's why.
Okay. Oh yeah, because he married
Lance Gibson Sr., who was a MMA fighter.
Shout out. Jed, what's your order though?
Hooper. No, you just go the odds. Chiesa, Hooper, McKinney.
All right, LT. The contemplation is real.
I'll go in reverse order. Chiesa, Hooper, McKinney.
All right, so same as Jed. All right, guys. That was Rank That Card. Hope you enjoyed it. Now we move on to one everyone enjoyed last week, so we're going to do it again. We always play it when Jed's here. It's time for a Better Call, y'all.
We're sorry. The number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
All right, LT.
I have my gavel.
You are up. So, in honor of BC, we got some regional MMA where anything can happen. Did you guys see this? At APFC, Anthony Pettis Fighting Championship, Ben the Bane was on the call. This 0-3 guy, Deontre Butts, yes, Butts, won by mother's milk submission or smother choke, whatever you want to call it, which is definitely the funniest way a fat guy named Butts can win a fight. What got me thinking, LT, who would you call out for an MMA bout in which the winner can only win by mother's milk? Mike Coppinger, Jake Paul, or Dana White?
I have to beat them, or the person fighting them has to beat them.
You have to beat them, but also maybe you lose. I mean, who are you giving yourself the best chance to beat by mother's milk? Cop, Paul, or Dana White?
Fuck Jake.
Maybe
it would need to have some utility for me. And this integrity of combat sports. So it has to be Jake Paul. Okay. Has to be.
Oh, I'm stunned. I thought you were just going to be like, roll the clip of me ruining Mike Coppinger's entire career.
No. I mean, what is there left to say about that situation? I'm simply
also,
saying,
he'd just be easier to do. Jake Paul is like young.
Yeah, but I mean, what's the point there? Like Jake Paul getting whooped up on, especially by mother's milk submission. This would be very degrading and I think he needs that.
I think Dana would be also just as good for everyone too.
He's old.
Yeah, but
he's older than me.
Such a sight to see, you beating him.
Don't tell Dana that. He's going to be boxing Eddie Hearn soon.
That's true. We'll get to that.
He has to go train for that fight, motherfucker.
We will get to that. Jed, guys, we talked about it earlier. Your guys' favorite card of the year, maybe favorite card in the history of
nobody said
MMA.
That. Nobody said that, motherfucker. Nobody said that.
I know, I'm joking. But Jed, the Rousey-Carano card has your casual friends talking. Before it happens, they want to get to know the sport a little better and get more into it. So they ask you to recommend a fight. Unfortunately, the new Paramount Plus, UFC library isn't really all up to date. Still doesn't have all the fights. You mistakenly canceled your Fight Pass subscription. So there's only 3 fights you can choose from. Which fight are you calling up on the TV to get your casual friends more into mixed martial arts? Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza 2.
No.
Michael Venom Page versus Sam Patterson.
I hate you.
Or Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis.
Oh, no.
God, there's not a way that any of those fights get people to want to keep watching.
I think the answer, I don't know.
I'm gonna say Francis Derek, and it's bad, but Rose Carla, I think, might actually be the worst fight of all time.
Rose Carla, I looked at all these stats recently, and especially because that was 5 rounds, they had the most output of these 3 fights. So
yeah, but it's over 5 rounds.
Yeah,
which is like, I'm gonna make them watch 25 minutes of that shit. They would beat me with bars of soap. Like,
yeah, dude, that was a sparring session straight up. They were shadow boxing each other. It was fucking insane.
MVP Patterson had more significant strikes than Ngannou Lewis, so maybe you go that.
Yeah, but at least with Ngannou Lewis, you can be like, you see how big they are? Maybe one of them will hit the other and it will hurt. Where the MVP Patterson was just like, nothing matters. What are we doing here?
But I think if you're not into MMA and you see a heavyweight fight where no one does anything, you're like, aren't they supposed to hit each other and go down? Like, what just happened?
There's no good answer. You picked 3 black holes, and you're like, which one is less black holy?
Exactly.
You can't pick Rose Carla. It's 25 minutes. You can't do that.
Right. I agree that that's the worst call. For sure, that's the worst call.
Okay. So we're saying MVP Patterson, or we're saying Ngannou Lewis?
I'm sticking Ngannou Lewis, but there's... that's shit and turd sandwich, man. There's no good answer.
All right, LT. The Afro Man trial resurfaced this week with him coming out victorious against the Adams County Sheriff's Office in their defamation suit, which got me thinking all the things you've said through the years, LT, about all the different people. I mean, God knows what's out there. Who knows who would sue you for a defamation case, right? Like, it could happen. You never know. So who would you call to defend you in a defamation case? John Jones, Joanna Jędrzejczyk,
oh my God,
or a completely inebriated Jed Meshew?
A completely inebriated Jed Meshew.
Really?
Yeah.
Because he's an actual lawyer, or because you trust him the most out of all those people, or both?
Because the other two, you're going to lose, right? I mean, you're going to lose everything.
I think Joanna could get you a winning case, dude. I don't know.
I'm generally unsure if she can, like, how well she can read, much less, win a case for me. Jed, even inebriated, could probably utter a few words about like different things I could eventually plug into AI to come up with some kind of a defense using Claude or something, right? He could at least leave crumbs to follow. I mean, this would also not be a great way to go, but I would take a inebriated Jed over basically any of the names you mentioned.
I guess that's fair. I was trying to make Jed not pickable by making him inebriated, but I guess
I get better when I'm drunk.
I mean, you can
much like my driving.
Yeah, you could be like, he's drinking and he's driving, and he's blindfolded, and I'd be like, yes, I'm still going with Jed. I trust his judgment more than those other two.
There are just some things in life you're better at when you're drunk, and this is I do way better.
Law is one of them. All right, Jed. Well, you recently tweeted this video. In fact, you tweeted it at Luke asking him about it. But it's Yuri Prohaska, for the audio listeners, deadlifting 561 pounds, a feat that most of us will likely never accomplish in our lifetime.
It's really a block pull and not a deadlift, but okay.
All right. Well, it's that's what the caption said. I'm not a weight guy, whatever. Anyways, no one will ever accomplish that in our lives, most likely, unless we had a good spotter.
I've lifted more than that on the deadlift, just to be very clear.
What's your deadlift max, Luke?
Huh?
What's your deadlift max?
On the trap bar like that, I've done 595 for 3. On stiff
Big
bar,
strong
I've gone 605.
Well, lucky for you, Luke, this question isn't for you. It's for Jed. Jed, you'll likely never lift that amount in your lifetime. No
Unlikely.
offense, hopefully. So let's just say you needed a spotter to help you lift, give you a little extra lift on that bar, make it look good like you're doing it.
I'm not being serious about the 605, by the way.
Who are you calling, Jed, to be your spotter, aka who will give you the best chance to help you lift some of that weight? Option 1, Anderson Silva after the second Weidman fight. Option 2, Weidman after the Uriah Hall fight. Option 3, Conor McGregor after the third Poirier fight.
Jesus.
So all of them have one leg, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, no one's gonna spot me, which is fine. You're spotting on a deadlift. They're not gonna help me deadlift anyway. For the record,
spotting on a deadlift is more like,
again, it was to help you lift the bar. It was just
because they can just release the weight, you know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. None of them are useful. I do just want it for the record. My deadlift PR is 380. So not remotely close to this. I wouldn't succeed, but give me Connor because I would be very, very upset listening to him talk. And so maybe that gives you the little extra anger juice.
All right. Fair enough. LT, Eddie Hearn recently posted this video of him on a speed bag, and he eventually calls out Dana White at the end of it, now furthering their beef. But which venue could hold such an historic event of 2 washed billionaires who have never fought professionally? So, LT, which venue are you calling to book Dana White versus Eddie Hearn? The Meta Apex? The Avenir Center in Moncton, Canada? Or the Tachi Palace in Lemoore, California?
You gotta go Tachi Palace. First of all, let me say this. Shouts to rest in peace to the great Jordan Breen. Jordan Breen, for folks who don't remember him, fucking loved Tachi Palace.
Did he?
And used to commentate Tachi Palace fights with TJ DeSantis along with some other folks. And I just have to say, I think it is fucking a travesty that what Tachi Palace used to offer on the regional side has been all but forgotten. And in fact, our own Brian Campbell turning them into a punchline by, you know, because the Dana White was during the, you know, everyone recalls during the pandemic was like, oh, we're going to go to Tachi Palace. And then they never fucking went. Tachi Palace is great. I've heard nothing, and I cannot be more sincere. I've heard nothing but good things about people on the regional side of MMA have had to say about Tachi Palace. So the answer, motherfucker, is Tachi Palace.
All right. I'll give it to you. Jed, Matt Frivola recently backed up Daniel Cormier's claims that UFC fighters get royalties for the UFC video game. But Frivola's check was only for $250. Not sure, they didn't give him any stats on how much he got played, you know, whatever. But let's assume, Jed, that you are in the video game and you need some extra cash. Who are you calling to play as your character as much as possible in their spare time to help up that revenue? Demetrius Johnson, Sean O'Malley, or Curtis Blades? These are all known gamer fighters. So, you know they got plenty of time for it.
I mean, you got to go Demetrius Johnson because he does a lot of streaming with games. And it would be poetic because like a year ago, DJ came out and was like, here's how much money I got in royalties. And it was like $2,000 from being like in the UFC game or whatever. It was not a significant amount of money. And so if I could get DJ to spur me to make more money off UFC 6 or whatever than him, that would just be funny.
See, I feel like you got to go, like, to me, Demetrius Johnson's too busy. He's got his YouTube channel. He's doing interviews, content. He's got too much going on. He doesn't have that much. He does those streams you mentioned, Jed, but how much is he just playing in his own spare time? I don't know. Sean O'Malley rubs me as someone like train, go play video games. Train, go play video games. And maybe I'm wrong. He's got kids now. Maybe it's different. But, and then like Curtis Blades is like newly launched his like Twitch. So he's been like extra playing. So like, I'm trying to think of like who's going to put in the most hours for you. I don't know if Demetrius is the guy.
I stand by it.
Right. Yeah, I feel like his commitment, he'll just make other things suffer in his life to do that job correctly. You know what I mean?
Plus, Curtis Blades is still like theoretically fighting. I'm not even theoretically. He's booked to fight. Like DJ's retired.
Yeah, I don't know. All right. LT, Deontay Wilder's tailor recently revealed that he measures the Deontay Wilder statue rather than Deontay himself. Do you think he makes out with it like Deontay does too? Anyways, picture a scenario where you finally get that dream job, Luke, at Joseph A. Bank, and you get paid to take dumps. Now you're a tailor, and your famous client is too busy to get measured, so you have to resort to their statue. So, LT, who are you calling to be your famous client? George St. Pierre, Conor McGregor, or Ong Lun Song? Probably butchered the same.
So, none of these would work, and the clothes wouldn't fit. However,
I forgot to mention George. Every time you're getting near the crotch area, says, "Are you intoxicated?" to you. So like, it's really annoying for you to do because his is clearly the most set up for like being able to tailor a suit towards. So yeah.
I thought you were going to be like, "Are you impressed with my performance?"
That too. Yeah.
I have met and talked to Ong in public. He's much bigger than he looks in person. He's much bigger in person than he looks on camera. And I've seen Conor in person, and I've seen George in person numerous times. The one that would be the closest, just in terms of pure size, off season anyway, would be Ong. Ong has a big ass head like mine. He's got,
He's got the belts built in on the shoulders, though. You would never get the shoulders right.
A credible tailor would be able to work with that. You understand what I'm saying?
Plus, he's bigger. Ong's easily the correct choice.
Yeah,
you don't think the
when you see
McGregor
Ong
one
in person, it's the only one that would even make sense.
What about the McGregor one, man? You could get all up in that like cave structure they got. Like really, like it looks very detailed too. I feel like you could actually get the best.
I'd feel weird wearing a suit that was like. Yeah, no, Conor sucks. Fuck him.
He'd have to pose in it, like in that, that pose.
Mm-hmm.
It would be sick.
Conor sucks.
All right, who do we got next? Jed. RAF. We didn't talk about this in our hits and misses. Continues to make strides. They just signed Gable Steveson against a TBD opponent at the end of May. And unlike the PFL, Jed, you even brought it up this episode, funny enough, how you want to be the master of fun or whatever it's called. The minister of, what's it called, Jed?
I think minister is the term I previously used.
Yeah. Either way, unlike PFL, RAF has seen your resume and they want to hire you as their new matchmaker. So, what is the best matchup you can make? Who are you calling to be Gable's opponent in his first RAF headliner? Brock Lesnar, John Jones, or Wyatt Hendrickson?
Oh.
Brock Lesnar, because they're going to do Wyatt Hendrickson, but that's not the one you do first, right? You build to that. Wyatt, I think, is wrestling tomorrow. I assume he'll win. You build to that later. You do Brock because Gable is basically Brock 2.0. He was very accomplished and more accomplished in wrestling, tried to play football, tried to do pro wrestling. Now he's doing MMA and others. So you do Brock. Also, that just boosts the star profile the most. And then you go to the rematch of the NCAA championships with Wyatt Hendrickson.
You don't think the John Jones, the coach versus prodigy kind of vibe is the thing?
To paraphrase Luke, John Jones sucks. No.
All right. LT, I'm curious of your thoughts on this because it was a more serious one.
I couldn't agree more with Jed. You got to go Brock Lesnar first. That's the thing you do first. You build him up. He becomes big, and it makes the rematch fucking huge. Yeah, definitely that way.
All right. LT, last one for you. Ilya signed with Richard Milley, and you called the promo. You could see it right there. The best sizzle reel a fighter made by a commercial non-fight entity that you've ever seen, which got me thinking. What other companies might do in this situation. So picture this, LT. You are the head of creative at McDonald's. Which fighter are you calling to be the lead in a McDonald's promo? And they're selling a product too. So Mackenzie Dern selling the Big Mac, the sesame seed buns.
The Big Mackenzie?
Exactly. Tony Ferguson selling McNuggets when he was like calling out McGregor. Or Conor McGregor selling Coke products or soda.
Oh, Jesus Christ. The answer is unfortunately probably Conor because that just works too well.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to do a bit of a rank that card kind of answer,
Okay. All right.
I think the answer would definitely be Connor. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I do think it's true. Second, I would go Mackenzie. I go that Mackenzie burger, right? A happy smile. And, horny MMA fans would just want to see her.
And she'd like turn around to eat it.
Yeah, exactly. Totally.
Turn around to eat
and
it.
then,
Mackenzie works.
Yeah.
And honestly, you could make them look like the Hamburglar or some shit, but then putting Tony Ferguson as the McNugget seller is like the last choice.
I'm imagining Tony though, like ready, like someone's like, order number or whatever, and Tony like hijacks the mic and he's like, "Yo, McNuggets, where you at?" And he's like behind the register with the McNugget. Like, but
you couldn't lead with that. That's a fun little addition.
I don't know. I think it'd be good.
That's a deeper cut for MMA people. But like, if you did Mackenzie, can you remember those old Hardee's burger commercials?
Yes, with the hot chicks.
Ronda Rousey used to, and then bite it and it would drip everywhere.
You just do that, and that's. But the Connor one is the most fun by far.
Yeah. All right, Jed, last one for you. I don't know if you guys saw this, but this guy went viral recently for single-handedly taking out.
Look, the guy who just got kicked in the face. Watch him here.
Takes out numerous different opponents in an audience, including effortlessly throwing a woman like 5 rows by the hair.
Hold on, watch this. He beats up this guy. Yep.
Jesus.
Dude, watch him take this girl after this guy.
This guy comes in the shirt. He's gonna get smoked here in just a second. Watch this. Boop, boop.
Watch him grab this shit now.
Right now, watch him. Yep, frisbeed her.
Get the fuck.
And then these guys are like, "Don't hit me." He's like, "Fuck y'all, I'm gonna hit you anyway."
Yeah.
Look at a Terminator,
bro. So Jed, this guy needs to be stopped. You can only find one person to do it. Who are you calling to attempt to put an end to this man's reign? Death sentence, Winged C, or Mark Zuckerberg?
Dude, you don't send Winged C if you want someone to win a fight.
I do not know.
Is the answer here though.
I just don't know who Death Sentence is. That name.
Death Sentence is like Boys with Winged C. He's the guy that Dimitri.
He's
He's a street beefs guy. He sucks.
The answer is Zuckerberg, because if someone gets within 10 feet of harming him, I assume security swarms him and shoots him with tasers. So
let's just assume he's
give me
alone.
Zuck.
I think he pulls guard or something.
Obviously, Zuck also can grapple, and
yeah, but
that clip was wild, man. I had not seen that before.
Dude, he tossed that girl like a fucking throw pillow.
Especially because like early on in the clip, he looks like he sucks. Like he's doing like slappy hits. And you're like, this guy's gonna get
a head kick.
He had a tough first round, but he rallied big.
He really rallied in a major way. That was wild.
Hell yeah, guys, that was Better Call, y'all. Hope you enjoyed it.
Dude, we should watch more street fights on this fucking stupid ass show.
I incorporate. Have you seen this shit with it?
Yeah, I want to watch more dumbass street fights and just comment on them because they're fucking fun.
While I'm here, 15 minutes. I got the first ever rematch in prop quiz history. Jose Young's taking on Mike Bond. $20 on the line. Championship bout. Tune in for that. UFC Seattle tomorrow at 5. And I want to just remind everyone, 40% off all t-shirts right now. morningkombat.shop. Do not forget it.
There you have it. morningkombat.shop for all the t-shirts. 40% off right now. And of course, you want to reach the show, morningkombat@gmail.com. We are on socials everywhere. Very quickly, as a reminder, Brian Campbell, if you're going to be watching boxing at all on Saturday night, I know there's a lot of MMA, but if you're going to watch any, he'll be on the call. So check that out if you can. Jed, your coverage plan for the weekend is?
MMAfighting.com. We are going to have our preview show. It says like we're supposed to be going in 15 minutes, but weigh-ins are going on. So we're going whenever weigh-ins are over. So probably close to 2. We are also covering RAF 7. Mike Heck is on location in Tampa for that. And then tomorrow, so we've got that for tomorrow. We've got the UFC, we've got PFL. It's all at MMAfighting.com. We'll have a pre-fight Q&A over on the YouTube channel. I'll be running that. We'll have a post show, all the same stuff. I think I'm on Submission Radio this Sunday too. So, all around.
Oh, so bye, Jed. I'll see you then.
Oh, nice.
There you have it. Long Island, what do you have for this weekend?
I got my UFC Seattle watch along tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, full card. Tune in. Be there.
There you have it. Of course, you have his main card minute coming up. For me, I will definitely have either a post-fight show or a watch-along, but at a bare minimum, a post-fight show for UFC Seattle. So you can check that out at youtube.com/Luke Thomas. All right, we are done. Thank you all so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. See you guys Monday. We'll recap all of the action from the weekend. For Jed, for Long Island, I'm Luke Thomas. We'll see you all on Monday, and until next time, may all of your gains be loyal.
I'm feeling these margaritas, Brian Campbell.